out of what we're in. Whenever I come home, I'm able to talk to my family. Not only does it motivate me, but it keeps me updated with the streets. Hey, this is going on, crypto. Hey, you need to get your bank account up. You need to, like, all these information they're giving me that he can't give me because he didn't experience that. Or he didn't experience
crypto,
that.
don't do crypto, bro. You're gonna lose all your money.
You'll see.
Oh my God,
We'll see.
bro. Don't do it. I promise. Don't do it. It's not a good idea.
All right, you got to put me up on game on that thing.
Okay, yeah, don't do that. Gotta get into the sports bet. Oh my God. No. No,
So what would you suggest to get into?
No, don't gamble, bro. Don't gamble. No, what I would suggest is you know, trying to get a decent wage job. There's a lot of people who don't go to prison who are also lose a shit ton of money doing crypto and gambling and all this stuff. It's bad.
We see, so without connection to the world, I wouldn't know this. So now I'm just thinking I'm going right into crypto. But look, we need more connection with the world now.
No, you need less connection with the world. You're trying to make crypto puts. You're trying to make calls.
I heard you be gaming. What's your favorite game?
I game right now. I'm playing Marvel Rivals a lot, but it's new. It's a new game. As far as like of all time, Metal Gear Solid. What do you play? You play any games?
Super Smash Bros. And Fortnite.
Okay. Oh, you play Fortnite? Nice.
They have a PS4.
No, I know. Yeah, I suck at Fortnite. You beat my ass. You got a lot more time to play Fortnite than I do.
Well, at our camp we don't have internet, so like we play. Like right now I'm playing Dream Hunter. I'm playing Monster Hunter Ice World Reborn.
Oh, there's a lot of good single player games out there though.
Yeah.
How does that work? Can people just like buy you guys games or no?
I think so. We can get games sent in. I think we can.
Okay.
As long as they're pre-approved by our lieutenant.
Wait, what? Oh, so the lieutenant's like, this is too violent. Like,
I mean, we have Mortal Kombat. We have.
oh, okay, then never mind. Yeah, it's not a problem. So Washington Ridge Camp, right? All right, there you go. You can send in video games to Washington Ridge Camp. How do they do it? Is there like a Department of Corrections website?
These guys are gonna have like every system and every console and all these games and everything. Gamer culture for the motherfucking win. It transcends prison. It transcends politics. It transcends gender lines. It transcends everything. It's my favorite thing in history. I love gaming. It brings us all together. If you have a clue.
Portal, something like that. Lieutenant Hanks.
Portals, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I can't say nothing.
What? How do we?
Okay, these guys, they need Diablo 4. They need Diablo 4. They need a PS5 and a Diablo 4 split screen if it has it. I think the console versions of Diablo 4 have split screen. If not, they need Diablo 3. That's the game that they need. Diablo 3, just endless grinding, just like their lives.
Send these guys video games. There's a lot of people watching right now.
How do we send these guys video games?
Yeah.
Diablo
Video
4.
games are a challenge because I can't give them access to the internet without it being supervised.
Yeah. No, I meant like hard copies.
You donate them to the camp, so you send it to the address of the camp, and you state that you wish to donate it for camp, and then we'll include it in the systems we have.
Hell yeah.
Have to be like a maturity level restricted?
Yes, it has to be maturity level restricted, and it can't have an online component to it.
They'll send you guys some hard copies of video games. Hey, nice to meet you guys.
Hell yeah, go to the GameStop, buy 50 games. You've got that streamer money. You know what I'm saying? Take that streamer money, do something good with it. That's a good use of your fucking money. Go buy these guys games. They're actually saving the state.
I just want to say what's up to my wife, to my son. I do this for you guys.
I do this for
Thank you to the program, you know, got me a lot of time off. Chat, you know what's up, man. Get this to my wife, man.
Yeah, let's do a photo.
This is our first shower in a whole week. Just let them know we've been out here for a week.
Let's go.
It's our first shower,
It's
bro.
about time.
Thank you,
About
guys.
time.
It's because of y'all. Y'all fucking
How do you feel? How do you feel? That was fantastic.
I want
That was amazing.
I want you to talk about the fundraiser. ARC is doing a fundraiser for these guys after they get out. We're thinking of funds.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we need. Everyone wants to give right now that they're on the fire line.
Yeah.
There's not so much to give right now, right? They're fairly good right now. It's when they get back to camp, right? There's not a TV that's working in some places, right?
Yeah.
There's the boots are all fucked up and they need better boots. Like there's just things that are not so sexy, but that they need. Like you never think this, but we're getting a shower truck dropped off.
No, I know.
Shower truck.
Yeah. By the way,
you
God
had to
bless.
reach out to Coachella.
God bless the dudes at
Fucking
Coachella.
shower truck.
Shower truck coming.
Shower
These guys
truck.
have a
Shower
there,
truck.
actually.
Shower truck.
So just stuff like that. And then I think also when they get out, if they want to work for CAL FIRE, as soon as they get out, how are they going to pay rent to wherever they're getting hired? How are they going to pay utilities? What about a car to get to and from work? Right? Those sort of things. So we're setting up a scholarship fund to help them when they get out.
The conversations that I was having with all these guys is they kept being like, I don't mean this the wrong way, but like, why do you guys?
Why are you here?
Yeah,
They
like,
keep
why
saying,
are you
like,
here?
why do you
Like,
care
what are you
about
guys
us?
doing here? Why do you care about us?
Isn't that sad? They don't think people care.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Until
I
they
think
see a night like tonight.
I know, and I think right now, you know, with disasters like this, it's a huge moment to raise awareness, right? Because people are like, okay, I want to help. I want to feel collective action. I want to be in solidarity, and it's like, let this moment radicalize you in a good way, right? Don't fall prey to like misinformation, to individualism. Let this, you know.
It's like, to me, it's like the misinformation piece of it, and just like people like using this for like political hits and shit like that. When like you guys are showing up and like showing love and being here for these guys, and other people just want to use it.
But that is radical. Like that for a lot of people, that is, you know, radical empathy. It's like radical sounds so intense, right? It's like an intense word, but it is truly seeing these people as human beings, right?
There's fundamentally no difference between any of the dudes I just met today and myself, with the most important exception. I come from a more affluent background.
Yep.
And therefore, when I fucked up, I had a support network to rely on.
Yep.
I had my
Me
family
too.
that could set me straight.
Yep.
And I try to explain to other people that, like, these guys are, maybe some of them did some stuff that you would consider to be ridiculous or crazy or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Like, everyone has the capacity to rehabilitate.
Yeah.
Everyone has the capacity to become a better, more productive member
I like that Hassan talked about his past. I didn't know.
of
And that's
society.
what these guys are doing, right?
Yeah.
Like the thing I love the most about this is you go from like the pariah of the community.
Yeah.
Like we want to separate you because you're too dangerous and get out of our community. And now all of a sudden you're a first responder. You're a hero. People are baking you brownies and cookies because you're going up in a mountain and fighting a fire so it doesn't kill our entire community.
I think that's another thing I want to do if we can do this, because they were talking about like going back to camp.
Yeah.
If we could potentially film the camp at some point.
No, we go.
'Cause-
as soon as they're back, let's go.
Okay, that's a great idea. I want to do that 100% because I think from what I see, this is like one of the closest aspects to a more rehabilitative approach.
Yeah.
In like the American carceral structure.
100%.
Because like one of the things that everybody talked about, and across age groups from different camps, everyone was like, there's no racialized, like there's no race stuff. Everyone is the same. Nobody rocks the boat, because you get all of these positive incentives of sentence reduction, but more importantly than that, the conditions in the camp are significantly better than prison.
Significantly.
And by the way, that doesn't mean it's actually like better than your
Those
living
guys
conditions at
couldn't-
home.
Yeah, those guys couldn't shower for
Yeah.
5 days.
They also don't have internet. They don't have internet access unless it's supervised.
Yeah, I really don't
But
like that part of it.
I think that plays a major role in people feeling like human beings, and it helps with reintegration in general.
I was on your live stream as you were driving.
Fuck, I love this game. I'm having my captain pilot me through this like fucking like this like universe and stuff, and there's like all this stuff. There's like a ship flying by and all this. This is so much cooler than like Space Trucker, I think, and all this. I really like this game a lot if you learn it. If you spend the time to learn it, there's so much here. It's got the most depth I've ever seen a game have, maybe. I'm like flying between stations in one little sector. Like just, I'm scared to leave the sector now because there's constantly patrols and problems on the pipeline and stuff. And the game really starts to mature and it gets really good. I'm starting to get my second mining ship. And the second mining ship is going to like just double my passive income. And then I'm going to buy another mining ship, and then another mining ship, and then another mining ship, and another mining ship. And I'm just going to take all of that income, and I'm going to just roll it forward for like a week. And then I'm going to sell all of them, and I'm going to buy a really big mining ship. And then I'm going to buy another big mining ship, and then another big mining ship. And then eventually, when I've got a lot of mining ships, and they're all really like fucking like, you know, XL sized and super large. Like this station only sells small and medium ships. So I'm buying a small mining craft because there's like 4 tiers, and I've got to start with the 4th tier, and it's low. I'm gonna buy the 2nd mining craft, and I'm just gonna get it out there. And right now I'm making like 65,000 ISK every 15 minutes or something like that, and so that'll double it to like 120 every 15 minutes, and that'll start to add up. And pretty soon I'll be buying another mining ship, and it'll start to roll forward more and more and more, and I'll just keep buying small ships and stuff. And yeah, I don't think the asteroids ever deplete, which is actually kind of interesting. It's fucking cool. So, but already I've seen like factional resistance. We keep getting fucking nasty fights where like a whole raiding party of like 35 ships come in. I've never seen battles like this game before, where like factions of like 35 ships come in, and they're all different sizes, and they all do different things, and it's actually so cool. And I like this game because it's 3D. Eventually, I could just park the Star Destroyer, right? Yeah, like eventually I'll be able to just park my Star Destroyer like Admiral Akbar, and I'll be like standing there on the bridge, and I'll be like, it's a trap, and I'll command like 50 ships to like get to the west side so we can get to the west side and shit, and like and then we run from the west side to the north side, and then we come into the mid, and we flank their northern force and stuff. It's gonna be fucking amazing, and seeing this is like a representation of what I'll be eventually. Like, see, there's Admiral Akbar, but we're like just getting started out in our space enterprise. I believe this to be like the greatest game ever made, maybe. The more I play it. It has this endless cinematic quality to it, especially if you play it like on a passive level, that you just can't find in any other game I can't think of. It's like when you first take the tram in Star Citizen. This game's like that, and you sort of do get used to it. You're like a little bit more used to the grandeur of it, but it does feel like you can go and go anywhere really. And like the it's got that cinematic feeling of Star Citizen, where you ride the tram all the time, except you're out in space, and there's like a fucking freighter flying by, and that's a real freighter. You can go and attack that freighter and get the cops on you, and the cops will exit you from the faction, and then you got to go build a new faction somewhere else, and that might take 3 months real life time or something like that. It feels like the most realistic sim I've ever fucking played. It is the most realistic sim I've ever played. Like, the amount of time it takes to get up, you can play this game actively all day if you wanted to as a main, but it's so janky and frustrating sort of that you wouldn't really want to subject yourself to that much stress. It wants you to fucking chill out on the fucking deck while the passive income comes in, and you think about your empire. And it's good. It succeeds at it. X4 is a very good trainer for how to be a real like tycoon. I'm gonna go. What am I doing here? Oh, I'm buying a ship. Yeah. So we're buying a ship. We're buying a small ship. It'll be this courier mineral miner. And we will do a high preset, add to shopping list. This will leave me completely the fuck broke. I can't even really repair a ship, but that's all right. Confirm order. There goes all of our money. We're going to have another mining ship here soon. How much are you? You're very expensive. Good. And then in a few minutes, I'll have a ship here, but they've got to make it. I had to turn the voices off because they were a little bit too obtrusive. There's all this chatter going on in the background over the comms, like the hyperlink or whatever, where, like, of all these pilots that are talking to each other all the time, because the Empire is going on in the background, and there's all this stuff. There's cops fighting civilians. Like, the game is, there's cops fighting criminals. There's civilians that are moving transport ships around all the time and selling stuff. There's, like, traffic. There's just, like, full-blown city traffic going in and out all the time that you can bump into. There's freighters coming in from all kinds of crazy other places. There's people that are buying materials for their shipping concerns. There's, like, you know, it has all the feeling of a real life realm going on in the background. I've never seen this kind of depth in a video game before. I marvel at it sometimes. I think most people would probably sort of rebel against it when they first come up against it, because it's sort of so deep that you realize how much time it'll take to even, like, you know, be versed in it. You know, it is actually got this craziness to it. Like, for instance, I believe, maybe it doesn't permit you, actually. I don't think you can just take the spacesuit out. Maybe you can. I think you can, actually. You can take the spacesuit out. Like, I could save right here, and I could just spit a spacesuit out of the back of this thing, and the spacesuit's got a jetpack on it. You could take the spacesuit out of the hangar and out into the fucking space, and then you could like Bender Rodriguez yourself out into fucking space and, like, live out there as, like, in your spacesuit for 15 real life days, just flying through, like, you know, at 5 ms, just flying through to like, just to reach that asteroid right there that we see. To reach that asteroid is probably 5 hours real life time in a spacesuit with a crappy jetpack, you know. But you can do it. You can, like, have that ship, you know, poop out a fucking spacesuit. You can get in it, and you can go flying out of this hangar to that asteroid over there. And it has that space engineer sort of deep sim to it, of, like, you know, it really is space engineers. You can fly a ship out of this hangar, like a real ship that you didn't build it yourself like space engineers, but you provided the materials to make. Yeah. And sometimes I just marvel at it. Like, buying my second mining ship just now, I was like, wow, this game is fastly becoming, like, my favorite game almost. It's kind of crazy. It just plays itself. And there's this stuff going on in the background that I suppose you should care about. I'm rolling with the alien, and I actually think that's so cool. I like rolling with the alien. He's fucking weird. And I roll in with an alien, and it feels weird, and it, like, causes my brain synapses to fire. And I'm like, living with the alien's pretty dope. He's a pretty good pilot. He's like learning. I tell him to go places all the time because he's my chauffeur, and I'm the space emperor, and he's my chauffeur. Like, I'll tell him to take me someplace right now. I don't know if my ship's done yet. Let's see. Yes, it is. So, I suppose I could ride the courier mineral, I suppose. Let's go try and ride the mineral. We're going to put the Vanguard away. We'll go in the courier mineral here. Yes, hello, sir. You shall take some orders. I'm on his ship. Oh, cool. Look, there's, like, a walkway and stuff. Oh, look, there's like ore in the belly of the ship. You can see it. Fucking sweet. All right, cool. We've got a new mining ship here with a transporter and all this, and you know, a bit different of a helm and all this. All right, buddy. So I go into the menu and I go out into the universe, and I'm like, I want this guy to auto mine, Argon. Confirm. And in a minute, once he's, like, you know, his idiot brain has figured out what he needs. Actually, I want to talk to him real quick, actually. No, I don't want to take command. No, I don't want to take command. Damn it, Captain, come back. I'm going to take it out just because it's faster. Whoa! Yeah, that was all of my shield. Well, anyways. At least I didn't do any hull damage. Okay, we're gonna control D to get up out of the thing. The captain's gonna come. Hi, Captain. It's Captain Ricard. What's up, Ricard? Ricard Yancey. We're gonna give you a seminar. Oh, don't have anything for him. Proceed with current orders. Yeah, I can do it. Cool. Auto mine, bitch. Yeah, auto mine. I can always take it home or whatever. I'm gonna ride the auto mine ship for a little while and watch what he does because I think it's dope. We can even do like a fucking a television view of it, of everything that he's doing, and it gives me like this cinematic view of it. I'll just watch what he fucking does, you know. Yeah. Let's try some. What's it called? Yeah, it looks awesome. Where's he going? He's out here. He's like mining. Nice. Arg Food Trader Callisto Central. Watchful Gaze, Black Hole Sun, Hatikuva's Choice. You can teleport all over the universe because it is like the best RTS ever made. I don't like RTSs because they aren't 3D, but I like this 3D RTS. It's my favorite RTS of all time. This is so cool, and you can just monitor the fucking your entire like world like a television monitor. Like you have like you have Pegasus, and you can just watch all the cell phones and stuff. You can tune into any drone in the entire universe, pretty much. Yeah, and any ship and any station. It's so good. It's such a good, meaty RPG. They don't make them this good anymore. Look at this. It outdoes itself constantly. It's just, it's just like, wow. There's a jump gate for some reason. We can see if there's like a bunch of nasty enemies coming through it, and it is live, and I've seen stuff like that. I've seen nasty dudes come through the portal already. It looks a little pixelated. But the frames are really fucking good. I love lossless scaling. I actually really do. It's so good. 11th hour Federation space. Let's go back to first person and just see how Captain Ricard's doing. So can I fly the mining ship? I'm just curious. There's an autopilot activated. Why is autopilot activated? No autopilot. Wow, this ship is fast, actually. Wow. Oh, I have to do it myself? Oh, okay. Oops.
And I saw other people commenting about modern day slavery. And I'll say this, it's like, I'm running like a massive campaign right now with Governor Newsom and others, trying to get him to raise the pay, because I agree that the pay, it's been $1 an hour since 1984, right? That's unacceptable. So there was an actual legislative proposal this year to go from $1 an hour to $5 an hour, and it got killed. So this year I want to accomplish that, but like no one's forced to be here, right? This is voluntary, and it's now. 5 years ago there was no path to a career. You risked your life, you got paid nothing, you got out, and it's like, no, we won't hire you. Now there's a path to a $100,000 a year job. And I tell these guys, like, who cares what you get paid? Volunteer to get out of a prison cell, save people's life, make amends, redeem yourself for the shit you've done. Even if you're volunteering and you get paid nothing. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you have a career where you can make $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 so your kids never have to go through what you went through and then go to a great private school and a great college. The budget process starts now in January. The governor released his budget this week. And then they close the budget in June and it becomes a state budget. So between now and June is when he will either force his Department of Finance to do it or not do it. And the governor was here tonight.
I'll sing his praises if he does.
I'll tell you this, like, he really, in terms of fire stuff, he's done incredible. No governor in the last 30, 40 years has doubled CAL FIRE's budget. $2 billion when he came in, $4 billion now. 7,000 firefighters there, 14,000 now. Like, he's doing it.
Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to these guys.
How were the combos?
Fantastic.
So good.
Amazing. I would love to do more stuff with you on specifically this issue. Because this is something that I think is unfortunately an area where a lot of people just don't ever even encounter, like don't even broach the subject matter with like any dignity whatsoever. Everybody just writes off prisoners. They don't ever talk about them. They don't ever think about them. They don't want to reduce sentences. They want to make sure that people stay in prison for as long as possible without ever thinking about it. And I think showing the camp conditions specifically as juxtaposed with like what county jail looks like, what prison looks like, and how much that helps people feel human, and how successful that is in terms of like rehabilitating people and allowing that integration to happen is really huge. This is a major aspect.
Wait till you see the camp, you'll really enjoy it. And we'll go there, we'll shoot it, it'll be great. Thank you guys for coming and shining a light. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Big dog, I'll see you. I'm going to San Francisco. Even I'm blown away. My house is burnt down.
Hopefully not. All right, everybody. This was a wonderful experience overall. Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you, Scott Budnick, as always. Thank you, Murat, for showing up as well. You know, this was a wonderful experience. I'll of course be live tomorrow, and I hope you learned something today. All right.
Hey up, everybody. My name's Josh.
It was good. Yeah. Thank you, Hassan Anabi, for the excellent content from a stream. I've liked and sub to your channel.
We're putting the work in to.
I've not looked at Hassan's channel ever. Maybe I may as well do that eventually, but not right now.
Hey up, everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about alcohol and how it's kind of a bad thing in general. I mean, you already know that, obviously.
It's a good thing.
I don't know, it's quite a hard video to make this because it involves me being quite upfront and personal, and I've got like friends and family and stuff that watch these videos now. So and it's something that like we don't really talk about, you know, in general as a society. I mean, we pretend like we talk about it, and we pretend like we care, but I don't think we actually do. And what I wanted to talk about is drinking. Specifically, I wanted to talk a little bit about home drinking, solo drinking, just drinking on your own, and not drinking for any particular purpose, not drinking for you know, the sake of living a fulfilling life, but just drinking just to feel. So I first started drinking in 2016. I was 17, which by most standards is actually fairly late. You know, a lot of these sort of stories that you hear from people started at like 12, 13, 14. I didn't, and when I first drank, it was at a wedding up in Scotland, and it was honestly one of the best times of my life. Because it was such a huge event, and everything was so larger than life. It was quite a big scale wedding.
How
they
cute!
Booked out a huge
It's
place,
a noob.
and we had like a big garden party and stuff. And
oh, look at him
was
blush!
Really nice. And it was my first time properly getting drunk, and the Scots know how to fucking drink. Let me tell you that. They really know how to drink.
Yes, they do.
I must have had, honestly, something like the equivalent of about 13 pints, and it was like my second or third time ever getting drunk, right? And you know, I got back from Scotland, and you know, I was kind of all right for a bit, and because I was in college at the time, and I started to drink more, you know, with friends, and we go to people's houses, or we go to the pub, and we would get drunk. And when you're that age, you're sort of 17, trying to like, you know, get your older looking friend to go in a place because he doesn't get ID'd.
Shoulder
you know, you
tap.
go in just
The old
trying
shoulder
to get
tap.
drunk with other people, and that's the aim of the night, is to get as wasted as possible. So, you know, we used to do stuff like who can down a beer the fastest, right? And we would do all sorts of stuff like that, and it was also normal. And you know, I occasionally would get a drink for myself, you know, just to have at home as a nice little evening treat. And that went from being, you know, every once in a while to being fairly regularly to
Every
being
day.
every other day
All
to
day.
being every day. And then once it was every day, it was like, you know, 1 or 2 wasn't enough anymore. Then I needed to get 3 or 4. And they sell them in packs of 4. So you buy 4 and you feel like you need to have all 4. So you end up drinking more and more as a kind of a result of the way that the product is kind of marketed to
I
you.
want alcohol.
And I don't know, when COVID started, I'd probably been drinking for about 3-4 years at that point. And, you know, because you're so isolated from everyone around you, you're sort of not going out as much, you're not seeing friends as much, you just start drinking more on your own. And it became a thing where I was just drinking just to drink, really. You know, I'd get like a 4-pack and I would sit down in front of the computer and I would watch like Peep Show or The Simpsons or just some bullshit.
Oh yeah,
you know,
Peep Show!
And I feel like I would drink so...
I forgot all about Peep Show. Excuse me just a second. Wait, why are you looking at the ground? Don't look at the ground. Look at what he's doing. Yeah, there we go. Peep Show. Yeah, Peep Show. Peep Show was very funny. There was 9 seasons of Peep Show. I had no idea. Give it to me all. Sold. Oh, I'm going to watch Peep Show. Yeah. Picard Yancey. $44,293. I love watching him work. The sound effects are a little high. I think I'm going to turn them down. They're kind of like annoying a little bit. It was Dark Elemental season for a while.
So that I would find what I was watching more funny, or I would like drink so that I could listen to the music more intensely and get more of some kind of visceral reaction from it.
Like everybody else in the
world. What
world.
alcohol does is it makes you feel like more open and like the feelings are all more real, right? And you know, I went from my late teens to my early 20s to my mid 20s, and this wasn't getting any better. In fact, it was just getting worse. And I started working in pubs, and working in a pub is a really terrible environment for people that drink. And I think most people that work in pubs already drink, already smoke, and it was just really bad, because what you end up doing is you end up staying after work and having a pint, and then 3 pints, and then 4 pints. And pints at the pub are expensive, even if you're fucking 20% discount, they're still expensive. So you're going to work and you're spending most of your paycheck on that workplace, and you end up just drinking a ridiculous amount with people that you're not actually that bothered with, but you're with them all the time, so they just becomes like the norm for you, right? And you know, you go to your friends and you know, it's not really fun anymore. It's just the sort of thing that you do just because this is what we do and what we've always done, and we just drink just for the sake of it. And you know, you stop being drunk after a certain amount of time. You stop actually drinking just to, you know, get drunk. You just start drinking just to feel normal. And, you know, once you start drinking every day, you're always drunk, because, you know, alcohol stays in your system for 48 hours, right? So that means that if you're drinking, you know, more than every 48 hours, that you are always drunk in some capacity.
Oh, it went away.
Maybe sometimes you're more drunk than others, but you're always still a little bit inebriated. You know, because going to sleep and you know, having a hangover, it's not like when you're hungover, you're actually sober, you're still a little bit drunk, and that's kind of what causes the hangover, is how I kind of look at it. I don't know exactly how true that is. I don't know, I just feel like in 2022, I started to really feel like there was a problem, because it started going from buying one 4-pack of these, which are £3.09 in the Lidl, right, to buying 2 packs of them per day. So that's £6.18. On the cheapest possible one, you know, and if I went to, you know, to the shop down the road, it'd be double that price or more. So every day between
Yep. Oh, I remember that period. Yeah. Like, every day I used to go spend $10 at the liquor store when I was young, and I would buy like 4 or 5 natural ices or black ices or whatever they would sell, like crappy beers that were like 5.6% if I was lucky, maybe Steel Reserve, maybe if I could stand to do it, but most times I couldn't. Elemental seal this train. Take me home. I want you to auto mine. Then I will leave the system. I'll let them auto mine.
Is going on this, right? Not food, not transport, not all the other necessities that you need to have. And because it's so addictive, you end up putting this before things that are more important.
Yep.
You know, and I would start to not really get like the nice food that I actually like, and I would just start getting crap just because it was cheaper, so that I could buy more of these, which are also really cheap. And it's just kind of, I don't know. You sit and you look at it sometimes whilst you're drinking, and you think to yourself, God, I'm a fucking loser. What the hell am I doing? Is this what I'm going to be like for the rest of my life?
I don't think that.
And you know, sometimes I would walk past like crackheads or alcoholic street drinkers and stuff, and I would think, is that my future? Is that what I'm going to become? Is this problem going to get worse and worse and worse? And I feel like the more I'm talking about this, it sounds like, you know, I was some like mega alcoholic, you know, I was fucking going out like getting totally blottoed.
If I'm gonna say to him, I'm gonna be like, if it helps any, I was actually depressed by how really normal your story was. In Denver, everyone I knew was like this. In my 20s, I didn't know anyone who didn't spend between $200 to $500 a week on liquor and weed. Everyone I knew was wasted. All of our stories are so much like yours. I think you're just young man. So many people go through this. Exactly like this. It's called your 20s. When nobody tells you. It's just not cool to act this way. If you do, that's when you truly become a loser.
And fucking like you know, doing crazy stuff and you know, that could be kind of fun and wacky. No, it wasn't like that at all. It was incredibly boring is what it was, because I would drink basically on my own, in my room, at my desk, watching shit on the fucking computer. Like, you know, just random YouTube videos or random songs or live performances or, you know, like clips of Peep Show or Faulty Towers, and I would just circle through the same fucking things again and again and again, right? And I started to really feel like there was an issue, and every time I would get drunk, I would feel really guilty. I say get drunk, I didn't feel any different really, I just felt normal, like it was an impulse that you have to do. And I started to feel like I need to quit, and I would say that every single day, and I'd wake up every single day like, I'm going to quit today. And it would get to around sort of 5 p.m, 6 p.m, because I had a rule, I wouldn't drink before 5 p.m. And that made me feel like I was a normal functioning member of society, because I didn't wake up and immediately have a fucking, you know, shot of vodka with my mouthwash or whatever, you know, like, or whatever. I wasn't like carrying a flask to work or stuff like that. And that made me feel like I wasn't an alcoholic. I was actually just a normal functioning member of society, because
I love
this is what
flasks.
everybody does.
Flasks are great. They'll fit right in your pocket, and you put a goddamn, like a full fucking pint in there or whatever. Yeah, flasks are fucking great. I love flasks. I've never been an alcoholic, but I've definitely been a gonzo, which is like a belief in a chemical lifestyle. But no, I've never been like an alcoholic. I wouldn't really say I was ever a drug addict, really. I mean, I was, but, you know, I've never done what other drug addicts did, I guess. I mean, I had a stereotypical speed phase, but I mean, I don't know. I didn't really ever like steal cars or anything like that. I mean, I did, I guess. I didn't steal cars to buy crack, that kind of thing. I've never been an addict that ever like hustled people for dope or anything like that. I've never been desperate. I've never been a desperate addict ever. You know.
Everybody goes out and just gets on the piss, you know. And yeah, I started to wake up every day feeling guilty, and I used to also wake up in the morning and I would not want to go on my phone, because I would be really worried about what dumb shit I'd sent to people. You know, would I have gone on to some like old group chat and like just sent like some long ramble about some bullshit? Would I have like, you know, there was a couple times when I went through old like chats in the morning from the night before, and I would see like, oh God, I've really revealed some like really personal stuff that I shouldn't have revealed. And like there was a couple times when like, you know, I'm just basically just like sad posting to someone else, and I'm putting them in the position where they need to try and comfort me, and it's not fair on them, you know. And I would feel incredibly guilty over it, and yet I would keep drinking and I would keep doing it, and I would keep questioning, why am I doing this, and why do I feel like I'm imprisoned by it? Why do I feel like I can't escape even if I want to, despite the fact that I seem to be so conscious of the fact that this is so bad for me? Why is it that I'm so aware of the prison that I'm in, and the door is right there to leave, and yet I'm not leaving? Why are the chains invisible? And are the chains even really there, or are they just imaginary? And you know, I would dream about being sober. I would really, like, I loved the idea of being sober, but at the same time, you go out to the pub or whatever, and you see like the sober guy, right, who's just drinking fucking water or whatever, you know, and you just feel like maybe they're a bit boring. I remember like, it was a really nasty thing I would do. And not like I did to people, but it was just a thought, like a nasty thought that I would have about people. If someone quit drinking, you know, I'd be like, oh wow, good for you, man. But deep down I would kind of think, oh God, they're boring now. Great. You know, another one gone that I can't drink with, or whatever, you know. And you know, I would never say it to them. I would just sort of think it. And I was really worried that if
I did have that feeling, it wasn't a phase for me. I still would get wasted on all these drugs. I'm not scared to do it. Heroin, speed, cocaine, methamphetamine, Xanax, Valium, whatever the fuck. I don't care what it is. I'm not scared to do these drugs. I just don't have any money, and they made them illegal. If those weren't problems in the way, I would absolutely go right the fuck back to fucking drugs. I love drugs. Got no issue with them. It's the fact that they're illegal and I have no money. So, I mean, there you go. Easy Easy solution to it. Works for me. If they're ever legal and I ever have any money and there's nobody around to judge me, I'll go right back to it. I know I will. I'm gonzo. I've always been gonzo. You know? It's not going to change. It wasn't a phase for me. I just got fucking suppressed by the worthless piece of shit humans. All of my goddamn life so badly, I just gave up on the things that I consider are who I am. I just gave up on the things that I consider to be who I am. You know? I don't know how else to say that. I just gave up on the things that I considered to be at the core of the center of who I was so that other people could judge me or you know, so that they would stop judging me. I've never felt shame about my drug use. It was everybody else who felt that. Fucking dumb. This one was feisty. Can't seem to get ahead of him. Fucking paralyze.
If I quit drinking, I would become this boring sort of person that doesn't matter, that doesn't, you know, that like I would become like an English teacher or some shit like that, you know, that isn't, that doesn't have anything of worth to say, that is just this, I don't know, you know how the people like talk about others like they're NPCs? I was worried I would become an NPC in that sort of way, like a non-player character, because I'm the main character after all, because I'm so fucking interesting, because I drink 7 pints a day. You know, and
7
it's not
pints
like I
a
would
day.
think like differently of like myself if I was to quit. I would just sort of dream of this idea, you know, that like everything would be the same and yet I wouldn't drink. And I was almost, I don't know, maybe I was scared by the idea because I thought it was impossible and that the only way it could be achieved is I did become this, you know, non-entity, if I had to like sell my soul or something like that, like my personality is based around drinking, and that's what I started to realize, and realizing that kind of helped me to begin the journey of getting out of it. And I would sort of sit there, and I remember I used to post on Reddit like, is it normal to drink fucking 7 pints a night? And you know, sometimes people would say, yeah, that's totally normal.
No,
you know, and
no.
I'd feel kind of you know, validated by it. And, you know, I started to realize that I don't need to fucking book a holiday to like the middle of some random like Vietnam or something and go on a lash and like get prisoned in fucking Vietnam, you know, to be an alcoholic. I don't need to hit rock bottom and end up on the streets to be an alcoholic. I don't need to wake up in the morning and immediately reach for the bottle to be an alcoholic. And alcoholism is really fucking boring. There's not much to it, and you don't have to be drunk and visibly drunk to be an alcoholic. You just kind of plateau, and you just this constant like inebriated state where everything feels sort of whatever, and you know, it feels like I would just drink to feel normal. And that all became really scary, and I was always trying to quit, and sometimes I'd manage like a couple days here or maybe 3 days there or a week here, and then I would end up going back to it because I feel like, okay, I've made it 7 days now, I can go back, you know, because I've shown to myself that I can handle it, right? And every single time it would go from like, oh yeah, back to once every other day, back to every day, then back to where I was before, drinking 7-8 pints a day. And that cycle happened for probably about 2 years. And I was always talking to everyone about how I would want to quit beer and drink, and I would never drink again, and all that sort of stuff. And the idea of never drinking again really scared me, because like forever is a very long time to say something to yourself that you're going to do, that I am never going to drink again, right? And I quit drinking. I don't actually, that's another thing. I was always chasing the dragon in a sense. You know how they say like, oh, it's pointless to chase the dragon. I was always chasing it, and sometimes I would catch the dragon, and I would see it as like, oh, I need to have that final mad night to remember. You know, I need to have that final night that is just mental, brilliant, that gives me the feeling that I had all those years ago when I was young and innocent, you know. And every time that would happen, I would quit for a couple of days, and then like I would pick up a drink down the shop because I would get this temptation. And, you know, I would be aware and conscious of how stupid it was. And yet I would do it every single time. And nothing would change. And I would just do this again and again and again. And like I went up north a couple of times because me and a friend, we go up north quite often. And we get like an Airbnb and we just go film some videos and like go see some sights and stuff. And like I realized I was drinking like all the time, and like I was just doing nothing but just get drunk. And like he even commented like, you are having a lot, and I was just like, no, I'm not. Like I know people that drink way more than me. And it's not like alcoholism isn't a fucking competition. Like drinking is not, it's not a game that you play to try and get the high score. It's a way to try and make yourself feel more real, because at the moment you feel fake because you're discontent with the world that you're in. That's why that's why alcohol like consumption rates are so high in like third world countries. That's why you know the lower class tend to have more alcohol problems than the upper class. That's why all of these things kind of occur, because you're depressed and so you drink to try and alleviate your depression. But alcohol in itself is a depressant, so it's a total fucking waste of time. It's like,
it's not a total waste of time.
It's like drinking coffee to try and solve your insomnia.
In moderation, alcohol is one of the finest things a person could do.
While you're in
moderation
state of needing and being dependent on this thing, you feel like you need it. You feel like you need this to feel normal. And I would look at it and I would pour it in a glass. I wouldn't drink out of a can. I would get a glass and I'd pour it in the glass like I was at the pub, and I would just sit and drink at the desk. And then I wouldn't finish the last bit probably because I would feel like almost sick, you know, and sometimes I would actually force myself to be sick just to try and make that feeling go away. And I was always waking up fucking like I need to be like vomit, right? And sometimes there'd be like that much left in a can, and it would fucking reek, and I'd smell it and I'd go, oh. And when I finally quit, I don't actually remember the day that I quit, but I remember what I did. I woke up and there was a glass that was quite full actually. I had probably that much in it, right? And it was completely flat, apple juice looking beer at that point. And I took a whiff of it. I went, oh God, and I picked up to go take it and chuck it down the sink. And then I thought, hang on, nah, I'm gonna leave it there as a reminder of how much it stinks and how much it's fucking wretched. And throughout that day, I got the usual little craving. And when I had that craving, which I got like, you know, every time like my active thought process would stop and you go back to the neutral state, and then I would crave this, right? I would take a whiff of it and it would immediately get rid of that feeling and that craving. And so I kept it there for like 2 weeks. It started to go fucking moldy. And I only threw it out because someone pointed out that it might actually, like, spores might actually release and actually like fuck me up and make me ill. That's the only reason I got rid of it. It might even still be there today, to be honest. And, you know, since that moment, I thought, like, every other time I would try to quit, I would have so many temptations. I'd be at the pub, like, not shaking, because I never got shakes or anything like that. I didn't get yellow-faced or anything like that. I was just like, God, I would love a drink. Like, this night is so fucking boring. I just, you know, look at all these fucking people having fun. You know, look at them having a fucking drink. Look at that person having a drink. Oh, they're having so much fucking fun.
I think you're just depressed.
I just want to, like, do this. You know?
I think you're just depressed.
But Jesus Christ. It fucking reeks, this stuff. I really can't stand the smell of beer. In fact, I want to get rid of that now because it genuinely makes me feel ill.
Really?
Like, you know, and it's not that I judge other people for drinking in any capacity. Like, it's a personal choice. Some people have their own journey to make if they decide for themselves that they have a problem and that they want to quit. It's up to you to decide if you have a problem, and if you do have a problem, then try and take the steps to get rid of it. And if you're worried about your drinking, then you're probably an alcoholic, even if you're not like drinking as much as someone else who isn't worried about their drinking, because it's the concern that I think makes it, because it debilitates you. And since I quit drinking about 7 months ago, I've not really had many cravings at all. I went on one date where I felt like maybe I should just drink so that way I'm drinking, because if she drinks, I'll have to drink, because like what if it like gets like back to my place or whatever and I'm sober and she's not, so I thought I'll just drink just so that we're both drunk, sort of thing. But it turned out she didn't drink anyway, so that was quite a fucking lucky thing, because if it weren't for the fact that she didn't drink, maybe I would have relapsed, and maybe I would have just started drinking this shit again. And I think if I was drinking, I wouldn't be able to make these videos. And I think the fact that I was drinking is what makes so much of my old content utterly unwatchable to me, because so many of the ideas I got from it were just because I thought I was so fucking funny. I thought I was so intelligent and so creative, because I had these mad ideas when I was drunk, and I thought that made me a better person than everybody else, because I got inebriated and the inebriation gave me inspiration, and I thought that it was a dichotomy of that, right? But since I started drinking these, right, they taste exactly the same. They taste exactly the same. And this stuff, genuinely, that's what I think of it now. Like, it is honestly the most vile, wretched, fucking disgusting
Why did
shit
you waste your money
ever.
on non-alcoholic beer?
And, I was a little bit scared to make this video for a few reasons, because one, it's an incredibly vulnerable thing to do, to admit that I had a problem. Two, it's an incredibly vulnerable thing to portray to, say, like an audience, one that's very large, and as is. I mean, there's like 7,500 subscribers and there's like 2,000 returning viewers. And then there's my family and friends, and like my nan watches these videos, so now she's gonna know I had a problem. And I didn't want to make it for that reason, and I also worried that if I made this video that it would make me feel like, oh, I'm okay, I can drink again. And that's why I didn't make this video for quite a long time. But I don't know, I just felt like it was something I had to figure out, because once I quit drinking, I realized that I was having more fun. I realized that I was enjoying life more, and I realized that everything felt so much more beautiful and colourful and ecstatic. And and the days, I didn't feel like I just wanted the days to end. I didn't feel like I wanted to just dive into my phone and forget about the world. I didn't wake up in the morning feeling shame because of some possible text I might have sent to someone that was embarrassing. And I felt like I could be productive, and I felt like I could get stuff done. And since I quit drinking, I've been so much more productive, and I've managed to get stuff done all over the shop. And that's all very obvious side effects of quitting booze. But what I didn't expect was just how much more holistic and visceral the world became. I felt like I was always sober when I was drinking, but now that I'm sober, I feel like I'm always what I was trying to achieve when I was drinking, if that makes sense. I feel the world in a very satisfying way that some may only be able to get through inebriation. And I go out on nights out. I go to the pub, I go clubbing. Well, I don't like going clubbing, but I do go clubbing. I go to live shows, and I go to friends' houses where everyone's drinking, all that sort of stuff. I'm surrounded by alcohol and loads of people drinking and getting drunk, right? And you know what? I get drunk off the vibes. That was something I was a bit worried about when I quit. Like, I quite enjoy the whole like stumbling home at 2 in.the morning, spouting shit,
Me
shouting
too.
shit with your mates.
Me too.
And I thought that might never happen again.
I know, I get
It didn't.
depressed
In
about
fact, it
that.
actually became more common.
I'm scared I'm never gonna have that again, because they suppressed me so badly for 10 years over what did I do? Oh, did I fuck your mother? You got so mad at me for doing drugs. Oh my God, you treated me so badly. You threatened me with 10 years in jail and all this. I fucked your mother, didn't I? That's like literally how I feel. They did it for no reason. So I just make up a reason. I'm like, yeah, because I fucked their mother. They fucking persecuted me for 10 years for no reason. So because I fucked their mother. They treated me so bad because I did drugs. What the fuck, man? You were this piece of shit, humans. Fuck you and the system that you roll with.
The crazy nights out actually became more frequent after I quit drinking rather than less. I felt more childlike wonder rather than less. And every night just felt more whole and interesting. And life just felt more real after I quit drinking. That's kind of it, really. And now it's been about 7 months, and I can count the number of times I've even vaguely had a temptation on one hand, and of those, only one of them was any real threat. And that was only because I was going on a date and I didn't want to be the sober one to someone who's drunk, you know? So that was the only reason. And the other times were just your usual call from the void sort of shit. You know, you're walking down the road and you see, you think oh, what if I just throw myself in front of that car? You know, you're not actually going to do it, but and it's almost an intrusive thought. That's the only time that it's ever really come up, and that's only happened a small handful of times. And every time it's happened, I just think, God, wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't that be stupid? You know? And you know what? Now I sit at the desk and I have maybe 1 or 2 of these, and you know, I watch the same Peep Show, Fawlty Towers, YouTubers, fucking.
Probably 4.
Okay, so I will probably get home around 8 to 8:30. Because I've been an errand since so long. I've been going since 11 this morning.
Okay.
Anyway, but I need help unloading the car.
Absolutely.
Break away?
Yes,
Okay, I'll call you when I get home. Thank you. That takes a load off my mind.
No problem. You're very welcome. I don't mind.
Okay, I'll see you when I get there.
Okay, let me know.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Bullshit that I did before. Nothing inherently changed in my life. It
Wait,
thinking about
that looks good too. Hold on.
Drinking. The sober life is not different in any real capacity. It's only slightly more, right? It's only slightly more, and you can still do all the same things you did when you were drunk. You still have all the same experiences, and you can still get drunk. Right? I still get drunk. When I stumble back at 2 a.m. with my mates, I've had 4 or 5 of these, right? And they've had 4 or 5 real beers, right? And we're chatting shit, and I feel just as drunk as everyone else. I feel like I'm having a good time, and I feel like I'm not unhappy with the state of the world, and I feel actually content with things for the first time in a very long time.
That's good.
And you know, I don't know what the future will bring, because I've never said that I have quit drinking. I wouldn't say I've quit and I'm never going to drink again, because forever is a long time. I just think of it as I'm not drinking at the moment. I think of it as I'm not drinking right now. Right now I'm just having these, you know. Or do you know what's also good? You can go to the pub and just order water, and water's free. I went out yesterday.
In London.
And I got the bus, and sometimes the Oyster card thing, the light is usually green. This time it was red, and the guy just waved me on. I went to the pub, got free waters, got the bus back. The whole night out cost £1.70, or whatever a bus costs, something like that. And you know what? If I was drinking that night, probably would have cost about 30 quid. I think there's a couple things that frustrate me, and they're not to do with the actual quitting of the drinking. It's
He doesn't
to do
know
with,
how to drink.
The way that these are put around. So first off, you know, you don't really get as much choice. Like when I was drinking, I would never have drunk Heineken, but now it's my main drink.
Heineken? Right? You're done. Get off my channel.
So on Joe Rogan being insane.
Oh, it was a good video till then. You were a pussy in the end. I can't believe you ended with Heineken.
Wait,
I was like, why does that bottle look so sus? I was staring at the bottle. I got completely distracted. I was like, he spilled the bottle. No, he drank the bottle. And it fizzed over. And I was like, you scrub, you're not an alcoholic. How dare you spill beer on the ground? That's God's blood. You can't spill it on the ground. It's sacred. Like, God damn it. And he spilled it on the ground. He like put the bottle down and it like exploded. It was just pushing and fizzing everywhere. And it was like, now I exclusively drink Heineken. And I was like, bong, bye.
What? Mel Gibson was
wrong answer, bye.
It was on Joe Rogan.
Fucking Heineken. I'm sorry. Fucking Heineken. I can't believe that's where he ended. Fucking Heineken. Are you fucking serious? Okay, anyways. Fucking Heineken.
Story that you want to tell.
Oh my God. I think we tried Heineken once when I was like 13.
About good and evil. Like, do you have a script, or is it just a thing in your head? Like, what is it?
Yeah, it's the resurrection story.
It's the resurrection story, but I'm Jesus.
It's not just it's not linear.
So are you doing this with historians?
It's not normal. It's not normal.
Yeah.
Historical stuff. Well, I regard the Gospels as history. It's verifiable history.
It's verifiably insane.
Some people say, oh, it's a fairy tale. He never existed, but he did. And there are other accounts, verifiable historical accounts outside the biblical ones that also bear this up, that yes, he did exist.
Oh yeah. Who told you this?
The one that is the most difficult for people to swallow.
Quote your source.
Yes.
That's the one that requires.
What has happened to Joseph Robinette Rogan?
I don't know. I don't know.
Give it enough time. I feel like he's going to be anti-weed.
I know, like what?
I just don't understand.
What?
Like, I feel like he is lost a plot.
He's like gone down gone down that bloody river of red, and he's just let the river of red run him away from himself.
In such spectacular fashion. Yeah, like, he's like, you know, the Jesus stuff seems real. Also, one of the fun little.
This man's not giving up weed. Weed is at the core of his thing, just like me. It's stupid. But I mean, like, I know a fellow stoner when I see one. That man's not giving up weed.
I mean, one of the most insane parts about the story is that, yes, apparently Mel Gibson's house was actively burning down while he and Joe were openly doubting.
What? Oh my God. Like, Mel Gibson was talking to Joe Rogan while his house burned down. If my house is burning down, I'm finding out. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm off at something and my house burns down or something. I don't know.
Climate change on this broadcast. And that Mel Gibson talked about curing cancer with, that's right, ivermectin. Hold on. Let's finish this and I'll get.
Curing cancer with ivermectin? Are you fucking serious, you goddamn moron?
To that too.
When did that red pill fucking, I mean, I'm sorry. That conservative bubble is filled with goddamn paint fumes. You fucking morons.
Faith in the most belief, resurrection.
Yeah.
Who gets back up 3 days later after he gets murdered in public?
What?
Who gets back up
what?
Under his own power?
No.
Buddha didn't do that shit.
Right.
You know.
What?
So.
What?
You believe that was a real event?
Yeah, I do.
Come on, man. Even Joe's like, what's that?
Yeah, I do.
You think that's real? I love these guys, man. They're like, Jesus actually got killed and then was resurrected after 3 days. That's real. Ivermectin cured cancer. That's also real. You know what's not real? Climate change. I love that Buddha didn't do that shit line in it, too. He's just like, yeah, El Buddha. This is amazing. All right, let's see what else. What else he was cooking up. I like that Mel Gibson has not even remotely reconsidered any of his like manic statements that originally got him canceled, which is not real anyway. Like there's no such thing as like real cancellation anyway. But like he is notoriously a rabid, a vicious man. Very famously has said a lot of inappropriate things. I'm trying to be as nice as possible.
I'll tell you a good story.
Okay.
I have 3 friends.
Sounds so crazy.
Stage 4 cancer.
What kind of toxic? This man is radiating toxic fumes or something. If
like, when did you become like this, Mel Gibson?
3 close friends all had cancer after listening to Mel Gibson talk.
All 3 of them don't have cancer right now at all.
No, sure.
And they had some serious stuff going on.
And what did they take?
The red pill.
They took some. What you've heard they've taken.
The red pill.
Ivermectin. Fenbendazole.
Oh my God, ivermectin and fenbendazole.
Yeah. I'm hearing that a lot.
They drank hydrochloride something or other.
There's studies on that now where people have proven that they...
Bro, do these guys have like...
What? Why are you talking about drinking methylamine and stuff? What are you talking about? Oh my God. Do not drink these chemicals. You're a fucking moron. You're a fucking moron.
The sponsorship, like, what's going on? The producers of ivermectin have come out and been like, no, dude.
No.
This is not like some kind of miracle drug. No. Yeah, they drank hydrochloric acid, dude. They drank hydrochloride. Why is he nodding his head like that? Because he's mentally unwell. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know why they are so invested in ivermectin. Like they shill ivermectin like they got stock options. And it was born directly out of having a contrarian, like anti-mainstream narrative. It's not born out of like an immediate material benefit, purely out of just like, I don't trust mainstream narratives. They told me that this is not gonna be a cure, so I'm gonna go ahead and assume it's a cure. That's so crazy. They succeeded doing the Tide Pod challenge. Yeah, these are the same guys who are like, this next generation is eating Tide Pods, and then they're like, nah, but also ivermectin cures cancer.
It was drinking methylene blue and stuff like.
Yeah, methylene blue, which was a
methylene blue
dye. Yeah, it was a textile dye. And now they find out it has profound effects on your mitochondria.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
This stuff works, man.
No, it does not.
Sorry. What?
I'm sorry. And by the way, guys, these things, they don't work. Don't listen to Mel Gibson and Joe Rogan. They are fucking crazy.
What? My mom had cancer and she was easily suggestible due to the sickness. Stepdad was an ivermectin nut and convinced her. Needless to say, she hasn't been with us for over 3 years now. I'm sorry about your loss, chatter. Just remember that your mom is not alone in this, okay? There are incredibly powerful, incredibly intelligent people with endless amounts of resources that find themselves in a similar predicament. Steve Jobs being famously one of these nutters. Okay, not calling your mom a nutter, but you know, this is unfortunately all too common. And you can watch 2 incredibly wealthy people have this conversation with one another right now. Like, I think Mel Gibson is a real one. Like, I think he actually personally thinks that thinks that drinking chemical dye would save him.
There's a lot of stuff that does work, which is very strange because, again, it's profit. When you hear about things that are demonized and that turn out to be effective, you always wonder, well, what is going on here? How is our medical institutions, how have they failed us so that things that do cure you are not promoted because they're not profitable?
Okay, but like, America is one of the few countries where everything is for profit. Like, this is the thing I don't understand. So for all of these other nations where they don't have for-profit healthcare, I guess pharmaceuticals are still technically for-profit, even if the government is mass purchasing them at much lower prices overall. Why is their solution to eradicate the for-profit aspect of healthcare across the board, all the way to the pharmaceutical corporations? Why do they never arrive at an anti-capitalist thought? It's right there. You're literally saying the words. The words are coming out of your mouth, and yet, for some reason,
you can't do anti-capitalism.
It's just not even a question. It's akin to saying openly, okay, capitalism is a massive problem. These parasitic forces have destroyed society because they constantly put profit over the interests of people, and that's why you have to drink bleach. Like, how is it? How is that your like? How do you go from point A to point Z? How do you go on this journey? It doesn't make sense. He just openly says the words, profit is the reason why these companies operate the way that they do. And then their solution is to drink bleach because the profit centers are telling you not to drink bleach. It blows my mind that you can't just go, you know what the solution to this is? The eradication of the profit motive. It's never that. And it's crazy because I could sit here every goddamn day of the week and tell you that for-profit healthcare is a major problem.
My camera.
Partially because it, you know, breeds these sorts of conspiratorial-minded people and leads them astray down dangerous paths. Right? I could tell you that every day of the week, and people go, nope, you're one of them. You're one of the societal elites that doesn't want me to drink bleach. I just don't understand it. People are
it doesn't want me to drink
much
bleach.
More susceptible to these psychotic conspiracy theories before recognizing that the way that our systems are designed are unfair and broken.
I don't believe anything about that. It's weird.
Gibson reveals he couldn't walk for 3 months after taking Fauci's pet drug for
Marvel Rivals Season 1 is here. I wonder if I should play Marvel Rivals. It's not like me to miss a game. But I mean, like, I don't know. Let's take a look at Marvel Rivals Healing and see. Marvel Rivals Healing Guide. Carry your team with healing. Complete Rocket Raccoon Guide. Rocket Raccoon. 10 Mantis tips. 10 from. So we should know rank up fast. Mantis is busted. And Marvel Rivals best strategist. Character guide. This is the best strategist here in all of Marvel Rivals. In this video, we're going to unpack why and give you a full breakdown. What I'm saying. New buff. But I don't like Marvel. There, let's see the healing.
We are Cloak and Dagger.
I don't play Cloak and Dagger for some time, but
no, I don't want to play this over Overwatch. No. It looks like what's that one they talked all that shit about?
I'll get you next time.
I get some heals, a sliver, very bit,
Well, I like that it doesn't seem like there's bullets very much.
Just the gaming.
I don't like it. I'm terribly sorry.
For COVID, remdesivir kills you. I found out afterwards, and that's why I wonder about Fauci. Remdesivir is so lethal it got nicknamed Run Death is Near after it started killing thousands of COVID patients in the hospital, wrote Stella Paul, New York, in a previous report from the American Thinker in Epoch Times. The experts claimed that remdesivir will stop COVID. Okay, let's watch
this. I got COVID from my gardener, and he had it first, and then I got it. And I was like, did I grab the hose or what? You know, what was? I don't know, but it was.
Wait, that's not how you. That's
COVID
like
is airborne, you
COVID
moron.
Stuff, assuming that you got COVID transmitted through like surface contact. I guess he's joking. I don't know.
I knew the guy for 20 years, and we both went to the same hospital, and he died and I didn't.
Jeez. Oh, he died?
I think we both got remdesivir. which is not good.
Not good.
Not good. Man.
Causes kidney failure.
I know. I couldn't walk for 3 months after I had that stuff.
Really?
Because it kills you. I found out afterwards it kills you, and that's why.
Bro, you just said you got COVID from your
Remdesivir
gardener.
did not
He
lay you
died,
out for 3 months.
And you couldn't walk for 3 months. Okay, maybe it wasn't the remdesivir.
It's
Maybe it was the COVID. Like, what? You just admitted it killed the gardener. Or no, oh my God, he doesn't think COVID killed the gardener. He thinks remdesivir killed him. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I misunderstood what he was trying to say. Oh, I'm not operating
Why
on
do
the
they
level
care
of stupid
about
that
these drugs so much? It
is.
seems like they're all actually shilling for some kind of fucking like pharma.
Oh God, he's saying remdesivir killed him. Of course, I'm so dumb. I'm sorry. Of course, it wasn't COVID that killed him. Funny how you call yourself dumb for not being able to understand dumb. Don't worry, homie, you're good, lol. No, I am dumb, just not that level of dumb. Okay, there's levels to it.
I wonder about Fauci.
Oh, you should wonder about that guy.
What does Fauci have to do with remdesivir?
What does Fauci have to do with any of this?
To stop people from getting monoclonal antibodies.
Yeah.
Well, they've restricted monoclonal antibodies, which is f***ing insane because they wanted to promote that vaccine because they wanted to.
Why are these guys so similar? It's creepy to me. You know, I've never really got along with men like this. I got a big swinging dick like them too, but I don't get along with them. I had not a best friend, but I had a close buddy. Known him all his life since he was like 15, something like that, and I was like 13. No, I was like 14 something, and he was like 16, I think. Known him all my life. Good friend. He was a bit of a womanizer. He cheated on his spouse and stuff. He was an interesting guy. He was, I wouldn't say he was right wing at all, because he come up in the club scene with tattoos and stuff like that. But very dear friend, actually. But he had the manly man thing going on, where he had like already internalized being a boomer at the age of like 27 or something like that. They get this thing in their heads that they're going to be the strong big men in the fucking neighborhood or whatever that everybody comes to. They're often like sleeping with the babysitter and shit like this. It's weird. And I've never caught into that sort of personality. I didn't do so well in his personal life that much. You know, we would smoke weed and get along, and, you know, we were really good friends, and we'd go to the bar and stuff. You know, we were good friends and stuff. But his type of personality, I don't cotton to. He knew it, too. Because I would bring him around, like, my intelligentsia, fucking crazy, like, hipster douchebag friends, and he would be like, "You're not like me," and I'm like, I would tell him, I'm just not. I'm sorry, I'm not like you. And that's it's weird because he's not a Joe Rogan type. He's a lot cooler than that. I have a lot of respect for my friend L, but he is a strong figure like this. They've got the tattoos. They've got the look. They've got that look like they might want to beat you up in the gym. That kind of thing. They've got the manly man thing going on. And I don't get along with that so well. Because to me, it's self-bravado. It is like literally self-bravado. It is this thing that they put on. That is, you can see it. I have a complete absence of it. Now I'll go toe-to-toe with a motherfucking pig in the cell. You understand? I'm hard. I'm hard like them. But I don't need, I make statements like that just because it's true. I don't make it like it's some brag or something like that. Like, trust me, it's just true. But I don't go around wearing it like a fucking suit. Do you understand? And both these guys have that going on so much right now. It's, machismo is the word for it. It's machismo. I think so. Let's go look at the literal definition. Machismo. I hate machismo. I hate it. Strong or aggressive masculine pride. I can't stand it. It's this thing that they put on like they're harder than they actually are. And then they get humbled by like a cold or something, you know? I don't know.
Off of it, which brings us back again to evil. Evil's real. It's real.
I don't think they've done shit like sped at 140 miles per hour down the Wyoming corridor in the middle of the night in the dark with 2 ounces of dope and shit like that. They don't strike me as actually hard, you know? I don't think they're actually crazy. They're just this machismo thing that they put on. And they know it. They know when they meet me that I'm not afraid of them either. I'm almost never afraid of them. Ever since I fought my father when I was young, I just, you know, like I didn't fight him, but I like physically suppressed my father and prevented him from leaving a hotel room when he was like triple my size and weight. And like fucking, and ever since then, I've just not been afraid of this machismo men. And I see this thing that they wear, like some kind of set of mental fucking armor that they don. And it appears so fucking fake to me. My father, he didn't have it. He hated men like this. I do too, kind of. I'm like my father in that respect. I never really knew this about the, you know, I can't think of a single time in my life. And I've heard it. I remember a couple of times I've said it. Like I've got a belly like my father. My father had a belly, and I've got a belly too. It's something genetic. I don't know what it is, but yeah, like my father had a belly, and so did I. And I'm like him in that regard, but almost nothing else. But we also, neither him nor I, he was huge. He was 6'7", 300-pound man, even without being fat. He was like so big. He was like the size of a basketball player, like Shaquille O'Neal. He was that fucking big. He was so fucking big. He scared me with how big he was. And like fucking, and you know, and he wore it, but he was an intellectual type like me, and I've always liked this about him, I guess, and it's nice to say something positive about my father. I think I'll talk to my mother about this. I'll be like, I finally thought something positive to say about my father, which is that I don't think he really thought that machismo was very attractive. Like a very attractive equality. You know, it's weird because whenever I think of machismo, and it comes up a lot, I remember this good old boy who came up to us when I was a kid. We were taking a trip to Fort Worth, Texas, I think, to visit one of my mom's friends. And we were visiting a cat show, I think. And we had some cats in a minivan and stuff. And he saw that my mom was driving. And he came over, and we were filling the tank, and he was like, "Oh, let me get that for you, ma'am." And she was like, "Oh no, I'm okay." And he was like, "No, I'll get that for you, ma'am." And he just takes it from her. And then he starts fucking filling our tank and stuff, and then he starts washing the windows and all that. And he's like, "How you doing here today, ma'am?" and all this stuff. And we're like mystified by this. Now, this is a Texas dude who sees a woman and a kid, and he just wants to do his duty as a machismo dude. In his community, that's normal. Us, we were East Coast liberal intelligentsia people, or whatever you want to call that, intellectual East Coast, like intellectuals. We were like West Coast liberal. I'm sorry, East Coast. Well, we were both East Coast, West Coast liberal intellectuals, and so my mother disliked this idea of the bravado and machismo. I've never really liked it. My father has never really appreciated it either, I don't think. I never ever caught him doing it either. He wasn't an effeminate man in any way or form. He was a very rough, hard man from the desert. You know, he was a rough, hard motherfucker from the desert, you know. I think, you know, the closest thing I could think of in recent memory, like my father, was that guy in No Country for Old Men. Llewellyn Davis, I think it was, or it's Llewellyn, whatever his name is, Llewellyn Davis, right? I think his name is something like that. That guy from No Country for Old Men was so much like my father that it alarmed me. his mannerisms, the way he talked, the way he acted, and all this stuff. Now Llewellyn had a lot more machismo than my father did, because my father was an artist. And he was definitely an East Coast intellectual artist guy who was in the New York scene, who hung out with pretentious artists, and I was friends with their kids and stuff. And so they were, for instance, like my parents managed to finagle a Nickelodeon television spot because they thought I might be good at television acting and stuff, but I hated it because I don't really like humans that much. And but I get along with certain people really well, and I'm very social. I just don't really like humans that much. I don't like being at the beck and call of others, but we did an episode of Eureka's Castle, and I sang a song about hands, and I don't remember what the lyrics of the song even are anymore, but I sang a song about hands have something, I don't remember, it's like hands this, and I did a hands dance for Eureka's Castle, which was on Nickelodeon, because my parents were these East Coast libtard intellectual people who happened to know a Nickelodeon executive, which is just insane. Or no, they didn't know Nickelodeon executive. They knew some television producer who knew somebody who was looking for kids for Eureka's Castle, and that was just interesting. And my parents were like, my kid is the quintessential Nickelodeon kid. We can't get him off the Nickelodeon. It's like a drug to him. And I was like, Nickelodeon? I want to be on Nickelodeon. Yeah. I went nuts for it. I was like, Nickelodeon, yeah. And they had me go on, and I was one of the kids on Eureka's Castle for about 35 seconds of an episode or something. They had me sing a song about hands, and that's me as a kid. And that's just, and so I would say, like, my father and I were almost never alike in any way or fucking form. He was like a rugged desert dude who liked exploring. He was into art and he was into painting. Definitely an active person who liked being outdoors a lot. And I was not. I was the quintessential video game kid. And I don't think that had anything to do with him. I just had the addiction to the video games and still have them. As you can see, I can't stop them now to this day. My father hated video games. He thought they were just one more thing that disconnects us from the desert, essentially. Like, he really, really liked... My father couldn't stand that I couldn't really relate to him in any way or fucking form most of my life. But one of the things he definitely really liked, I remember one year, is I came up with this hobby that I thought was actually sort of fun, which was sifting through the sand of the deserts that he grew up in when we went to go visit his mother in Arizona, in Sedonia, I think it was. Or no, it's Black Canyon City, I think is the name of it. Or yeah, Black Canyon City in Arizona, I think it is. And he trooped me through the desert for days because he needed to return to the desert at least once or twice a year. He needed the desert. He was like from it, and he really didn't like leaving it. And he was a desert dude. He arranged the reservation land and stuff on the desert, and so that was his idea of the most fun in the world, was just like roving reservation land in the desert, looking at all the cactus and all the Gila monster type things and all the stuff and all the flies and the fucking heat and all this shit, and he just felt right in the desert. That was just his comfort level, and so. So I came up with this hobby when I was like, I don't know, 7 or 8. I would gather shells that people had shot in the desert, because all there is to do down there is shoot cactuses, get drunk and shoot cactuses. And, people come through there with all kinds of weapons and stuff, and they shoot guns out in the desert where nobody will harass you, like out on reservation land and stuff, where it's legal to do that. And they'll drink and they'll shoot guns. And so I went through the reservation land, and my father was looking for artifacts and fossils and archaeological stuff. And I was looking for shells because they had color that would make them stand out in the sand, like green, blue, shell casings of all kinds. And I would try not to get copies either. And I would fill bags and bags and bags. I mean, I would take copies, but not very many, you know. And I would get bags and bags and bags of all the different types of ordnance out there in the desert in Arizona. They had so many different things. I saw chain gun rounds, explosive rounds, flame rounds. You know, there was like detonated grenades and all types of shit. If you really look in the sand out there, fucking crazy. And so, yeah, he would take me to these crazy places, and the fucking sand would just be littered with trash and, you know, and bullets and stuff, because reservation land isn't always taken care of that well. And I was just like, you know, I would just like collect shells, like of expended shells that people had shot, because it was so interesting. It was kind of like Pokemon. You got to catch them all. There were so many different rounds and ordinances and stuff. And I picked up a hobby of picking up different types of shells out of the desert in Sedonia. And he loved this. He loved this. My father fucking loved that. It was the only time we connected a lot, but it was like the one time he was like, oh, we could share something together. My love of the desert and his love of collecting shells in the desert. But what he didn't understand was it was just what I would do when I was bored out of my fucking mind. And you gotta understand, boredom for me is like death. Boredom is like death for me. I can't handle, like, I honestly, when I go to bed at night, I turn on the television and it runs all goddamn night until you know, I set a timer for 3 or 4 hours, sleep timer, right? But you know, I keep the television on for 4 hours of my sleep cycle every day of my life since I was like, I don't know, at like 12 or something like that, since my parents' divorce. I've kept on like the television on in the background, like I just have. And I just can't handle silence. I need like electronic fucking interference of some sort. I was just such a tech kid. I came up on Game Boys and television and Nickelodeon stuff, and I just need like constant, you know, what's the word? You know, constant stimulation. And so I didn't really relate to my father on his whole desert thing, but I came up with this hobby, and he thought that I loved collecting shells in the desert. No, it was just what I did when I was there, you know, and I don't really remember doing that very fondly, actually. It was like I filled bags and bags because there was just nothing else to do. But he thought I liked it, so he brought me back there for like 5 or 6 years every year, and we roamed the desert, and I would just fill... You know, I would just fill bags with like different military ordinances and stuff. And I don't know why I got that hobby. I just did. The funny things you do when you're a kid. And he kept all of those bags of ammo. I think it's the only thing of mine he ever kept. He didn't think I was a good artist. I don't think he thought I was good at athletics. I don't think he thought I was a good ranger or a tracker or a naturalist or anything like that. I think I was fairly useless to my father, which is kind of funny. He was kind of fairly useless to me, too. I hate my father. I don't hate him passionately. I just don't like my father. I've seen him do some nasty things in his life that I just can't relate to. I'm terribly sorry. You know? So, yeah. Life is what it is.
Money over.
So yeah, so neither my mother nor my father nor my friends nor anybody in my life has ever been this bravado machismo like father figure in my life, and I do not mind. I actually really appreciate that I didn't have to deal with that. Everybody else that I think has to deal with this, I have some pity. I have some pity. But no, I don't do bravado machismo. I don't do bravado machismo. I'll do it when I think that people want it from me. If they're like, carve the turkey, Skycat, I'm like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, no problem, all right, yeah, I got this, yeah, no problem, you know, or whatever. But I don't, like, you know, I don't go looking for it. I don't don it like armor. I don't go exuding it to women or anything like this. I'm this intellectual dude. Now, I didn't pursue academic. Well, I mean, I did go to college for literature. I mean, I went to college for literature. I didn't graduate, but I went to college. I dropped out of college, but I mean, I went to college for literature. I'm a college dropout, and I went for literature. I intended to work as a librarian. Isn't that proof of like intellectuality? I think that I picked my career path as a librarian. You know. It's true. I went to school for 3 years on the assumption that I would get a job as a librarian. That's why I did that.
Human lives.
I went for a lit degree, figuring I would do something in writing and maybe be just a librarian, take the steady paycheck so I could play video games all of my life and get stoned and drunk with my fucking friends and just party in the fucking party scene and all that. But no, I was persecuted for drugs at a young age, all the way from 17 on, and fucking, experienced homelessness and meth addiction and all this other shit. Because Denver just got torn apart. Denver got torn apart by poverty.
Is evil.
I agree.
It's a real thing, and there's a temptation.
And so I don't do like macho bravismo. You know what I'm saying? Whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of words for this in Italian about this. And that's one of the things about this is it is kind of a strong Italian thing to be like, father of the patriarch of the clan and stuff. It's kind of an Italian thing. Sort of funny. And I'm strongly Italian. I'm like 40-50% Sicilian. And it's weird. I got a lot of that in my blood, but I resist it all the time. I have no wish to exude this bravado armor.
To do it.
I have no wish to do it. I see him right now. I think he's looking down his nose at the world as he wrinkles his fatherly brow and all this stuff. I think he's literally wearing it like a suit of fucking armor. The macho bravado, machismo vibe. And I'm sorry, but it's just I don't cotton to it. I never have. These dudes don't get very far with me. They can tell I'm king shit on the block like them. I'm big man on the motherfucking block. I'm big ex kingpin fucking fucking doper on the streets like crazy person dude. I'm big, I'm big swinging dick on the block like them. I got a strong male fucking presence, you understand? But I don't fucking wear it like this fucking suit of armor. I don't need to. I'm not fake. It looks fake to me, I got a bunch of friends just as strong as Joe Rogan. They don't wear it like some suit of armor.
Communists, when you talk about eradicating profit motive for companies, I guess you should specify for them the universal basic and primary niche.
I got a friend out of the back of the Legion of Doom and Stella's in Denver and stuff. It's this coffee house. He runs a boxing gym and shit. He's one of the strongest men I've ever met, but he's like me. He just does not wear that at all. That motherfucker runs a boxing gym, you understand? But he's like me. He just doesn't do the machismo vibe. It's just not in him. Fuck it. It's just not there. It's just not there. Sometimes I don't need to act. Motherfucker, like, real gangsta motherfuckers don't run fast. Like, I'm just, damn, it feels good to be a gangsta. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to fucking like I got swagger. Understand me? I do. When I walk in the grocery store and shit, I've got my hand on my hip like I got a fucking pistol there and shit. I got swagger. But the difference is I'm not doing that to appear machismo. I'm doing it because I'm scared somebody with a gun might show up and open fire on me. It sucks, but it's true.
Should never be a profit-driven business. I do that all the time. It doesn't matter.
And so I exude the confidence of the swagger of somebody because all the time I get scared that some stick-up kid is going to fucking hit me right in fucking public. I get scared of it. I do.
People are...
It sucks. I've got a past and all this stuff. I get worried all the time that some stick-up kid will fucking come after me. I get fucking worried,
To become little cops and, like, read between the lines and assume the worst. These people don't have pasts like me. They don't have it. They just don't have it. Say things like that. Everyone is trained as like a little McCarthyist, okay? Everyone's got that dog in them where they go, you're saying certain things like everyone deserves healthcare. That's some pussy shit. That's some real socialism right there. And I'm trained into thinking that that's a bad thing. If you were to tell me that big pharmaceuticals are profit driven and therefore you should eat cow manure, I would be more inclined to believe you. Registered nurse here, we use remdesivir all the time with patients with pneumonia. It's a safe and effective drug. Lots of elderly die due to pneumonia. Remdesivir, hands down, saves them.
This is why. Now, do you hear him repeat over and over and over again? This is another reason why I don't do the chat. I don't want to be this parrot. I don't want to be this parrot of just parroting the chat all the time. I don't want to be this parrot where it's like bing bong, bing bong, bing. I think a lot of people would argue that this is the game of Pong, and I'm supposed to paddle the ball back and forth between you and me, the community and me. But the difference is like I'm already playing 3 games at once and doing React content. I don't think I need to. It's too much pressure at that point. Like, you know, like 3 games, React content, coming up with good commentary and all this, talking about my childhood and my father and all this stupid ass shit and all this other stuff. It's like a lot of pressure. I just don't need this byplay that this poor kid has to do. I have some sympathy to him that he has to do it. I actually really do. It's sort of sad, but I don't want to do some fire stuff. It's too sad. North Korean human safari. Was Robin Hood real? No. That's Decoding the Unknown from 4 hours ago. Let's go do that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Decoding the Unknown. Today,
thank you, Simon Whistler. Really, I like to sub to your channel. Thank you, Decoding the Unknown. I'd like to sub to your channel.
I've never read this before. We're going to explore it together. I mean, no, Robin Hood's not real. He's a fox. I know I'm thinking of Disney's Robin Hood, but on the I'm thinking of King Arthur or something, aren't I? Who's the wizard?
You're thinking
the wizard, and he's got the teapot, and he keeps pouring, and he says, "Say when,"
folklore.
And he can't stop it because he doesn't say when. He says, "That's enough." Oh my God! You could ask 7-year-old Simon. He would know more about Robin Hood than 37-year-old Simon, which honestly I'm not ashamed of. Let's just jump into it, shall we? I'm starting this off pretty skeptical, although of course there could be real-life historical figure Robin Hood. Wasn't there a Robin Hood live-action movie with some famous actor? All I remember of Robin Hood is he's a fox. He's an anthropomorphic fox. And that's always what I imagine in my mind as Robin Hood. He's wearing that green outfit.
Yep.
On a cool, misty morning, a gilded coach with solid gold hubcaps rattles along a poorly maintained dirt road, snaking its way through the towering oaks of Sherwood Forest. Wait, isn't he? Oh my God, I realize I know nothing about this. I'm like, Isn't Robin Hood from Nottingham Forest? But he is from Sherwood Forest, isn't he? Is it the sheriff of Nottingham or something who's the bad guy?
Nottingham was the castle. Nottingham was the castle in the town.
It's tax season. Oh no!
It was a ham.
Has been good. Oh, I see.
Hamlet.
I see. Oh, wait, the tax dude rides around in a coach with golden hubcaps. He's like, it's good to be the tax man. Everyone has to pay. Judging by the merry chatter inside the coach and its bulging treasure chest being carried by 2 guards, Sherwood is known for bandits and outlaws, but the occupants of the coach aren't worried. After all, who would dare to rob the royal coach? Well, there's one man, in this case, a green-clad fox with a feather in his hat. I told you he's a green-clad fox. That's what everyone knows of Robin Hood, who would happily borrow excessively since rob is such a naughty word from any gilded coach, royal or not. I speak, of course, of the one and only Robin Hood. We all know him, we all love him, and we all have a favourite Robin Hood movie. Do we, Ilza? I feel like 7-year-old Simon would have a favourite Robin Hood movie. Adult Simon's like, yeah, he's a fox and he wears green or something like that. That's all I know. So I'm just going to go by default that the fox one is my favourite Robin Hood movie.
Please have mercy on me, brother. Was it my fault? I got some really bad advice from Rottingham.
Ever feel like your privacy is slipping away between targeted ads and constant tracking? It's like your personal space doesn't even exist online. Kind of because it doesn't. It's pretty scary. Look, that's where Surfshark comes in. They're a VPN that keeps your data private, secure, and under your control. Surfshark offers unbeatable features. Unlimited device protection. One account covers your entire household. Laptops, smart TVs, I don't know, got one of those smart fridges. Boom! Covers that too. Clean web, blocks ads, trackers, and malware for smoother, safer browsing. And if you're still unsure, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee so you can test it worry-free. Online privacy is not a luxury anymore, it is a necessity. Don't let data breaches or trackers exploit you. With Surfshark, you can browse, stream, and shop without a worry. Go to surfshark.com/DTU for an exclusive deal. That's 4 extra months for free at surfshark.com/DTU. Thank you to them for sponsoring. And now back to today's episode.
Dressed in green tights, defending the people's rights with his longbow in one hand, Robin Hood, along with his very merry men, is quite possibly one of the most popular, the most enduring outlaws that the world has ever known. He's absolutely everywhere, and everyone who's anyone has had a run-in with the man dressed in Lincoln Green, from Shrek to the Grumpy Cat version of Doctor Who. Oh my god, I don't know that reference at all. What's a Grumpy Cat Doctor Who? Again, I haven't watched Doctor Who since I was like 11. I know they made all these new ones and stuff, but I just never got into it. He can split an arrow in two, takes from those who have too much and give to those who have too little, and always wins the fair maiden's hand. Wait. So Robin Hood is robbing the taxman, but he's also taking from those who have too much and give to those who have too little? Isn't that literally what taxes seem to do?
And I get to take 40% of your lunch. And that, Lauren, is how taxes work.
Oh, Robin Hood, you are a conflicted fellow. He has the love of the people and the loyalty of his men who follow him without question. But where does this extraordinary man come from? Was Robin Hood a real historical person who just became an absolute legend, or a creation of minstrels and storytellers right from the get-go? What the fuck's a minstrel? A minstrel to me, isn't it? Isn't that a little... In Britain, don't we have a little chocolate sweets called minstrels? They're little chocolate balls. Are those
Oh, those look really good. I'm kind of hungry. I should maybe eat dinner, I guess. I don't know. I like all these games because like a lot of them are passive. That's good.
Minstrels, they're like revels, just not as good. I don't think they make those anymore. Robin Hood and his merry men. From Errol Flynn to a talking fox, from the antics of Carrie Ells to the grim and gritty Russell Crowe, that's it. Russell Crowe played the fox.
Yeah, Russell Crowe's Robin Hood was actually not that bad. I thought it was okay. It was serial. It was kind of very serious, but it was all right. It was I thought it was a lot better than I expected it to be.
Fox,
which is a man who lives in the forest and robs people and chops off their heads and sometimes their hands. You know.
The tale of Robin Hood has been evolving from the very first time the story was told, passed down from one storyteller to the...
Russell Crowe, I gotta say. I really like Russell Crowe. I think he's funny. A lot of people don't like him, I think, but I really do. I really like him. A lot of people love him, but his personality is hard to take, I think, for a lot of people, but it's not for me. It's kind of funny.
The next, it's impossible to determine exactly when the story.
I think his premiere, Russell Crowe's premiere, was in L.A. Confidential. I think was the first time we ever saw him as Bud White, and that was a really strong role. I remember the name of and everything. I remember that movie so well. And I love Officer Bud White, and I remember seeing an interview about that later, and they asked him, they were like, how did you get the chops to do Bud White so well? And he was like, oh, they just let me be myself. And I was like, oh. And you see it. If you look at Bud White, you begin to understand who Russell Crowe actually is. He's this pissed off dude, and I'm kind of like this too. I'm kind of an angry guy a little bit. I'm a bit of an angry guy like that. I'm a bit like Officer Bud White a little bit. It's like, what the fuck do you want, Captain? You know, it's a little bit. It's kind of funny. What the fuck do you want? Like kind of thing, and slightly low key hostile and stuff. And I think Russell Crowe has that definite quality, and it makes sense. I think Bud White made sense. They let him be himself, and he did it well.
Appeared back then. Your average peasant couldn't read, so stories were memorized as spoken ballads, rhymes, and songs, as these were easier to remember and more interesting to recite and perform. Now I just find them annoying. Like when I'm reading a book, like I read my kids a bedtime story, and when it rhymes, I find it more annoying than if it's just a story. Just like, can't we just tell the story rather than blah 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 blah. Just tell me the story. My kids don't appreciate it more. Although my daughter does love saying she knows things that rhymes, and she'll be like, purple, slurple, whirple, turple, and I'm like, good job, those are words. The first written reference to Robin Hood only shows up in 1377 in the Middle English allegorical poem The Vision of Piers Plowman.
And it's an old folklore tale, Robin Hood. He wasn't real, but there's an interesting background behind it. There is some concrete books and stuff about it.
Written by William Langland. The poem isn't about Robin Hood. It's a dream sequence in which the narrator imagines what it would be like to live a good Christian life. Wow, sounds fascinating. It's what I always dream about, living a good Christian life. Prayers on Sunday, abstinence, not indulging in things. Come on! No one dreams of that. They encounter various vices and the 7 deadly sins, which, I mean, you look at them, they're all awesome.
I love real atheists. Nobody dreams of that. I know I don't either. I'm like, oh yeah, you're a god boy, huh? So you just don't like things that are fun. That's literally how I feel about that. Oh, you're a god boy, huh? Must work out good for you. I'll go over here and have my butt sex with my beer and my prostitutes and my water, or not water, but I don't know. What else is foul? I don't know. I'll smoke my meth pipe, you know? Abstinence, yay.
I mean, they're not. Some of them are awesome. Some
I
of
like
them
how
are
he's
gluttony and shit.
really
It's
taking
he doesn't
the
love
shot
being
at
a little
them.
bit gluttonous. It's like, oh my god, I'll stuff my face with all this delicious food.
Eats like a pig. I don't know.
More like a duck. More like a duck.
I'd say eats more like a duck.
Gluttony. I'm going to hell. But hell's not real, so that's okay. It's the deadly sin of sloth, personified as a lazy priest who claims he doesn't know the Lord's Prayer that well, but he does know the rhymes of Robin Hood. I know the Lord's Prayer. I'm like the least religious person that exists, but I've sat in...
I know the Lord's Prayer too, and I'm the least religious person that exists too. Give us a day our daily bread, and forgive those our trespasses, and forgive those who trespass against us. Forgive us. God, I don't even remember the whole fucking thing anymore. No, I don't. I've got too much brain damage. I don't have it recorded in my head anymore. No, but I did some of it.
Church, or as we used to call it in school, chapel, so many times that just the Lord's Prayer is hammered into me. I haven't thought about it in like 20 years.
Me neither.
But I'm pretty sure I could recite it now, and I'm not going to because I don't want to get copyright claim from Jesus. But he does know the rhymes of Robin Hood. The poet doesn't explain who Robin Hood is. He assumes that everyone reading the poem or hearing it being recited will be familiar with the character, suggesting that tale...
What's the Lord's Prayer, right? I mangled it, which gives me great shame, actually. Because it's like, you know, my brain is slowly unraveling. You can see it. Getting older, and my, oh yeah, our Father who art, no, I don't want to cheat. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, and those who trespass against us. I forgot it already. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Yeah, I was not that. Yeah, and I always forget the end because that stuff, you know, I don't know, temptation.
Tales of the outlaw were known by everyone, especially the lazy sorts who spent their time in taverns listening to rhymes of Robin Hood instead of on their knees memorizing the Lord's Prayer. Oh my god, I know what I'd prefer to be doing. It's like, would you be rather down the pub, having a good ass time, listening to, like, I don't know, what entertainment was in the 12th century? So I assume we'd be like, this is dope. So many rhymes. Whereas today, if that happens, I'd be like, oh god, I'm at some, like, cultural thing. I can't enjoy this, I'm not that cultured. Clearly, the stories have been floating around for a while. Since the tales of Robin Hood would have been spread by minstrels, right? I feel like I need to look this up. I used to be able to look things up because I used to use a digital reader, and now I've switched to paper, and I can't look them up. I'll just imagine those little chocolates telling those stories. You know, like the anthropomorphic M&Ms. That's what I'm imagining in my mind, except for just the little brown chocolates, each adding their own little twist. We'll never know the original story. However, the first written story we have is Robin Hood and the Monk, dating from 1465. We only have 2 more stories from the 1400s.
He like fires an arrow where it falls.
Robin Hood and the Potter, dating... fascinating. Dating to around 1468. And A Little Jest of Robin Hood, dating to around 1495. Little Jest of Robin Hood is actually 4 stories compiled into one manuscript. Robin Hood and Guy of Gisborne was only written down in the late 17th century, but probably dates to the 1400s. And surprisingly enough, the Robin Hood we meet in these ballads is a very different outlaw from the man we know and love today. I'm going to bet he's a lot more weird, and he probably does more horrible crimes. Because, I don't know, anyone who's read the real story of Sleeping Beauty, and you're like, oh shit, I had no idea this story had so much R-word in it. What? In Robin Hood and the Monk, Robin goes to Nottingham to hear mass. Mass, like a communion? Mass, is that what it is? Oh, I literally spent like 7 years going to church twice a week, and I don't really know what mass is. To make devotions to the Virgin Mary after an archery contest with Little John, who thought
chapel
going
every
into town
Wednesday.
if you're a wanted outlaw was a bad idea. After arriving in town, Robin is spotted by a monk who, being a sneaky little bastard, immediately runs to the Sheriff of Nottingham. I knew there was something about Nottingham in there, who promptly bars the gates and arrests Robin. The monk and his page boy set off for London to inform the king of Robin's capture, but they run into Little John and Much the miller's son. Upon learning that Robin has been captured, Little John beheads the monk, and Much kills the page boy. I told you, it's gonna get dark. He cuts his head off. The 2 outlaws go to the king, claiming to be messengers sent by the sheriff, and the king, very pleased to learn about Robin's arrest, sends them back to Nottingham with a cash reward and a royal guard to bring Robin to London to face justice. This is the weakest con ever. It's like, oh yeah, no, I'm sent from the prison to collect the prisoner. I need to get paid as well. Thank you, King. The 2 break Robin out of jail, stabbing the jailer to death for good measure, because fuck that guy, before fleeing back to the forest. The sheriff is furious, and eventually the king learns about all of this. Initially, he's a bit miffed, but he decides that Little John tricked him out of loyalty to his master, Robin, so the king decides to become a Disney princess and let it go. I wouldn't have got that joke till I saw Frozen recently. I had a good joke. Why can't you give Elsa a balloon? Because she'll let it go. Oh my god, I am a dad. The story has some of the basic elements of the Robin Hood tale that we know today. He's an outlaw in Nottingham, which in medieval England simply meant he was living outside the protection of the law and all the rights, limited as they were, that went with it. There's some conflict with the sheriff, someone gets their head chopped off. No, I'm just joking. I put that bit in there because that's the insane part. However, the main villain is the corrupt monk. Trickery and disguises are used, our man is an archer, and they encounter a fair king that basically lets this one slide. There's no sign of Friar Tuck, the minstrel Alan a Dale, or the lovely maid Marian. They would only join the story much later. And Will Scarlet is only mentioned in passing. For supposed good guys, our outlaws are a bit harsh in the treatment of the innocent, coldly killing the page boy, who would have only been a child, as well as the jailer, who was really just doing his job, not really the charming, honourable outlaws we picture today. No! Like, fuck that guy. Fuck that jailer. His minimum wage bullshit. Murder him! In fact, in most of the earlier ballads, we encounter a Robin who is violent and quick-tempered. There's a badass Robin. The main villains are usually either the Sheriff of Nottingham, a man so evil he threatened to cancel Christmas. Oh no! I mean, fuck Hitler. That guy threatened to cancel Christmas. Or Sir Guy of Gisborne. In Little Jest of Robin Hood, Robin shoots the sheriff with an arrow and slits his throat with a sword. Fucking hell. In Robin and Guy of Gisborne, Robin encounters Gisborne in the forest, and after an archery contest, Robin reveals his identity, which obviously leads to a fight. Robin kills Sir Guy, sticks his severed head on the end of his bow, and disfigures his face with a knife with certain measure of glee, before disguising the body in his own clothes, presumably to lead people to believe that Robin Hood was dead. Robin Hood sounds like a fucking terrorist, dude. He's like cutting people's heads off with a bread knife next. In Robin Hood's Progress to Nottingham, dating to the 1600s, young Robin kills 15 foresters after they mocked him and then refused to pay up on a wager. Robin, you
15.
psycho. What the fuck? It wasn't all blood and gore, though. Robin was violent, but he was still honourable in his own demented way. It's pretty demented, as Ilza puts it, to be like, oh yeah, no, we had a bet and they didn't pay up on it, so I murdered them all. Whoa, Robin, how many people did you murder? 15? 15? They were just doing their jobs. We had a little bet. They were dicks about it. I fucking murdered them all, like a psycho. He was a devout Catholic, faithful to the Virgin Mary, and while women didn't really feature in his early ballads, once they started showing up, Robin always treats them with respect, refusing to harm a woman. What a gentleman. Robin, gentleman, never once beat a woman. There's no mention of Robin stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. Robin only became a Marxist much later. That's good. Robin became the tax man much later. However, he does lend money to a poor knight, robs a lying monk, and according to one ballad, he did the poor man much good. Okay. Oh, he did like the poor man, like as in the poor, not as in a specific poor man. I understand.
Why don't you get a job?
Robin Hood was a violent man, but the medieval audience was well acquainted with violence, and since Robin Hood was killing the corrupt and oppressors, our medieval audience didn't seem to mind how he went about it. Someone from the lower class was finally turning the tide on the rich and punishing them using violence and trickery. Robin Hood was the medieval version of a blockbuster. Yeah, I have much more interest in old school Robin Hood. Old school Robin Hood, you know, cutting people's heads off with bread knives. That's my dude. Just like the terrorists are my dude. I mean, it's more fun. I mean, because it's not real, it's a story. Robin Hood, the man and the myth. As we've seen, the original ballads, which would have been closer to the man the story was based on, tell us that Robin was both a devout Catholic, but also had a violent streak that might surprise the modern audience. I mean, it didn't surprise me because I'm like, okay, so he's robbing from people, so he's a bit of a criminal. Let's just take that back 600 years, and I'm surprised he's not like genociding or something. He's just cutting heads off and killing 15 foresters in one day. It's pretty mild. It could have gone a lot worse. He could have like been, I don't know, it's like Robin the Rapist. What the fuck? It could be worse. There are really dark stories. However, in medieval Catholic England, you didn't have to go far to find a violent yet devout man, so what else can the ballads tell us about our mysterious outlaw? In many of the Robin Hood tales of later years, Robin Hood is supposed to be a dispossessed noble, but this is a 1569 addition to the legend, which identifies Robin Hood as a noble who is outlawed for debt, probably the most common reason men of standing were outlawed in those days. In the original ballads, though, Robin Hood is a fallen nobleman, but a yeoman, which is a bit of a tricky term. In the mid-15th century, a yeoman was a member... Yeoman? I know the word, I've just never really heard it pronounced much. Yeoman was a member of the rising middle class. They weren't knights or nobles, but they owned their own plots of land. However, the term was used for the social rank just below that of a knight, and a yeoman might have been in charge of the king's wardrobe or carrier's bows. I do wonder about this. Like back in the day, what were there, like 7 people in the whole country? It's like, yes, the middle class who do the king's clothing. All right. In a little jest of Robin Hood, Robin actually holds a position at court for about 15 months before he returns to his beloved forest and his outlaw ways. In the early ballads, Robin and his men are also sometimes referred to as the yeomen of the forest. So presumably the merry men are also from the middle class. While Robin doesn't give money to the poor, he does help people of a higher status, most akin to his own. Sir Richard of Lee is a poor knight in debt, and Robin compensates the potter, a tradesman, for the money he lost. Feats of daring, like that time bandits rescued a prisoner from Norwich Castle back in 1318, were associated with bandits, and even medieval crime had a social hierarchy, with bandits usually being yeomen or slightly better off peasants. So Robin being a daring, if somewhat violent yeoman bandit actually makes a lot of sense. It's like, I don't know how this fits into modern day, but he's like just a middle class criminal, so he's did a little bit of white collar crime, a little bit of mild shoplifting. I'm not, obviously middle class people commit horrible crimes as well. It's just a joke. Yeomen were also associated with archery, another important detail that shows up in the Robin Hood legends. Wait, Robin Hood's not the goat archer, right? That's, is that William Tell? Or is William Tell the kid who stands there while whoever it is, like, I'm definitely mixing my stories. It's not Robin Hood who shoots an arrow and knocks that apple off the top of William Tell's head. Is that William Tell? What the fuck is William Tell? Oh my god. I'd ask ChatGPT, but I don't want to be embarrassed. I'll just be embarrassed in the comments later. Oh my god. What's interesting though is that the archery in Robin Hood mostly takes the form of sporting competitions or contests between characters, often Robin Hood and Little John. When the characters need to do some dirty fighting that's going to get someone killed, they whip out their swords. During the 100 Years' War, ranging from 1337 to 1453, the longbow really became a weapon to be reckoned with, and that's mostly where our idea of the English archer comes from. We're not entirely sure who first started using the longbow on the battlefield in large numbers, but some theorize it was Edward I who reigned between 1239 and 1307. That's going to be important later. A little bit of foreshadowing there, Ilsa. Okie dokie. The longbow was a formidable weapon for both war and hunting, which required a high degree of skill, which took a lifetime to learn. So it was the weapon of choice for the yeoman, since your average peasant would be working the fields all day and didn't have much spare time to go and master the longbow. The longbow's the giant one, right? That was super accurate and powerful. I think when they discover, like, the skeletons of these people, like, their body is different. Like, it's got bigger bones in places because they were so used to, like, drawing this bow that it would be like a regular person just physically couldn't do it. It was the law that every man needed to learn to shoot a bow, but shooting a bow and mastering it are two different things. Battlefield, it's not hard to shoot a bow. I've shot many bows. Just like, maybe you'll hit the target, maybe you won't, but you know how to do it. Battlefield archers were mostly volunteers, and the rewards were substantial, including a share of the plunder and improved social standing if you survived the war and made it back home. Some kids would even dole out pardons to criminals in an attempt to get more bodies on the battlefield, which also feeds into the Robin Hood legends. Oh yeah, also Putin must have read Robin Hood. In the 14th and 15th centuries in England, being an archer was akin to being a rock star, so considering the popularity of Robin Hood, it's really no surprise that he was a master archer. A picture of the man is slowly emerging. But where do we need to go and look for him? England, it's not exactly America, but it is a little bit bigger than your average city. If your first response is Sherwood Forest,
it's weird. When I was a kid, I would read a lot more fantasy novels, and there was a fascination with archers. Archers were kind of like a really stronger presence. I think they're in video games pretty strong.
Nottingham, you're mostly right. Wait, but I thought Nottingham just meant outside of the law, and it wasn't actually a place back then. I don't know where Sherwood Forest is. I kind of thought it was in the south, but apparently it's not. Nottingham's a bit further north. I think I'm thinking of the New Forest. Oh my god, my British geography. Again, this is my lack of knowledge sometimes. God damn. The oldest ballad we have places Robin and his merry men in Sherwood Forest, which at the time would have been a royal forest. A royal forest wasn't just a patch of land with a lot of trees, but a tract of land set aside exclusively for the king's hunting needs. Not once. Needs. Hunting and foraging were expressly forbidden, and just gathering firewood could cost you an eye, which made things a bit difficult if you happened to live in a royal forest, which wasn't uncommon. However, quite a few of the older ballads also place Robin Hood in Barnsdale Forest in South Yorkshire. Sherwood does have a few things in its favour though. The major oak at Edwinston in Sherwood Forest, the biggest oak tree in Britain, and still looking good for its age. Goddamn, trees are awesome. They get so huge and old. I had to chop down a big tree in my garden. It just died. It was like this big tree, and the what's it? The tree surgeon, the tree dude. He came round and he was like, "Yeah, this one's fucked." And I'm like, "Oh no, it's this beautiful, nice old tree." And he's like, "Yeah, it's gonna die, and it could knock the one standing next to it over if you don't do anything about it. Also, it could damage your neighbor's property, and that would be bad." And I'm like, "Okay, cut it down." So sad. This is, according to legend, the very oak Robin and his men used as a hideout. Of course, back then, it wouldn't have been a major oak, it would have probably been a private sapling. Oh, but Robin's main antagonist also seems to be the Sheriff of Nottingham, and Robin keeps going into Nottingham for archery contests and to attend mass so that the sheriff can catch him, which would make a lot of sense if he was living 50 miles away in Barnsdale. Of course, it's possible that Robin and his men travelled a bit. The Great North Road, which connected London to York, used to run through Sherwood Forest and Barnsdale, making it the ideal spot for highwaymen and robbers to ply their trade, and Sherwood Forest used to be around 100,000 acres. God damn. King's got a lot of hunting to do. Stretching all the way from the city of Nottingham into South Yorkshire, the village of Wentbridge on the northernmost edge of Barnsdale Forest also shows up in Robin Hood and the Potter, and the Church of St Mary Magdalene in Campsall, Yorkshire, is supposedly the church where Robin Hood and Marian got married. Yeah, but this is fiction, isn't it? I know it's old, so it's like a blur. But didn't we say that ladies showed up later in the Robin Hood stories? Both Nottinghamshire and Yorkshire want to claim the outlaw as their own, so I'll leave this debate to those who are more invested in the outcome, which is not me, so let's move on. Finally, in order to find Robin Hood, we need a date to work with. So when exactly was Robin Hood traipsing around the forest Robin the Hood? Andrew, Andrew of Wintown, a 15th century chronicler, claimed two outlaws, one Little John and one Robert Hule, were robbing people around Inglewood and Barnsdale back in 1283, so around the time of Edward I. Walter Bower, another chronicler writing around 1440, claimed that Robin Hood and Little John were real bandits who gathered up a bit of a following in 1266 from among those who lost their lands in the Second Barons' War during the reign of Henry III. Finally, a manuscript dating to around 1460 also mentions Robin Hood and his accomplices infesting Sherwood Forest around the time of Edward I, so we have at least 3 medieval sources which all agree that Robin Hood was a real person hiking the crime rate during or immediately after the reign of Edward I, who had reigned from 1266 to 1307. If we go back to the earlier ballads of Robin Hood, this dating seems plausible. In Little Jest of Robin Hood, Robin meets comely King Edward, who pardons him of his crimes. The ballad doesn't state which Edward exactly it was, so it could be Edward I, II, or III, but Edward III, who reigned from 1327 to 1377, was a popular king and very successful on the battlefield, repelling Scottish invasions and winning decisive victories in France, so the people had much to celebrate, and celebrate they did. Archery contests became super popular, and in many a ballad we saw Robin Hood drawn out of the forest to compete in one of these contests. It was only in 1521 that Robin Hood was linked to King Richard the Lionhearted, who ruled from 1189 to 1199 in John Major's History of Greater Britain. Wait, that John Major? John Major, the Prime Minister? John Major has got to be quite a common name, right? But maybe the Prime Minister did write History of Greater Britain. He kind of, if you might picture, most people listening to this probably can't picture John Major, but he looks exactly like the type of guy who would write a history book called History of Greater Britain. Is John Major still alive? I swear he was old when I was a kid. Like, he was the Prime Minister before Tony Blair. I don't really remember him being Prime Minister, but he's got to be dead, right? Oh, he's alive. He's only 81. Oh, okay. Oh, he's just one of these dudes who's always looked old. Like, there's an old picture of him here, and he looks old. And there's another picture of him here, which is obviously newer, and he just looks still old. Just his face is like, falling off a little bit more. The idea we have of Robin Hood, a loyal servant of King Richard who is off on a crusade, standing up against the snivelling Prince John to return to the rightful king to the throne, only comes about in the 1820 novel Ivanhoe, written by Sir Walter Scott. I like that. I was just like, yeah, of course Simon knows this. Of course he knows about the prince and the return to the throne. I got no idea what this is about. He identifies Robin Hood as Robin of Locksley, a name we still associate with Robin Hood today. The novel was very influential, but it's a much later edition, and while it makes for great movies, there's nothing in the original ballads to suggest that Robin Hood ever encountered either King Richard or his brother John. Why would people assume he's writing a book of fiction? It'd be like if I wrote a book about Robin Hood today, and him like going around and cutting people's heads off with a bread knife, people will be like, oh yeah, no, Robin Hood had a bread knife. It's like, and I'll be like, it's not historical. I didn't research this, guys. And they'll be like, what? So it seems that we have something to work with here. We're looking for an outlaw yeoman who was a master archer living in Nottinghamshire or Yorkshire around the time of one of the King Edwards. I mean, how hard can that be? The historic Robin Hood. Finding any record of a real Robin Hood is tricky, not just because it all happened so long ago, but because back then, most commoners couldn't read or write, and the only people considered important enough to be written about were the aristocracy. No one cared how John the Serf spent his time. Commoners show up in court records if they crossed the law, but other than that, we don't have much written by or about the common people of the day. I kind of feel like, isn't that always true? Like, I guess today it would be like important people. Back in the day it was aristocrats because people were just born into importance, which is weird. But, like, no one writes the history about, like, Michael from the post office. It's like, he's just selling his stamps. There's no history about him. He just fades into nothingness. On top of that, the name Robert and its diminutive Robin. Oh, I didn't know Robin was short for Robert. I like the name Robin. But I thought it was just Robin. It was a very popular name in medieval England, as was the last name Hood, meaning that there are quite a few possible candidates for the tunic of Robin Hood. But we know very little about most of them, so trying to figure out who Robin Hood is involves quite a bit of guesswork. As for the Robin Hood ballads, they are stories, not historical documents. They were meant to entertain, not record history, so they're not entirely reliable when it comes to the search for the real Robin Hood. Life in medieval England was hard, and many robbers and bandits became heroes for defying the king's law and sticking it to the man, so they often made it into ballads and songs. I mean, even today, we're like, a good robbery or a con man or something, we're like, hey, as long as he's not conning me and it's just the rich people. It's kind of like, hey, go on! The name Robin Hood and variations of it, like Robe Hood and Robin Hood, became Robin Hood. It sounds like an American saying Robin Hood. Robin Hood, it's R-A-B-U-N-H-O-O-D, or one word, became a common nickname for thieves, even in official court records starting as early as 1262. However, what came first, the daring outlaw or the nickname? Let's assume, for now, the bandit came first and investigate a few candidates living around the right time who could have been either the real Robin Hood or at least the inspiration for the character. I don't think there's a real Robin Hood, there's just an inspiration for a character. And honestly, I've made enough of these to kind of guess that it's going to be an amalgamation of a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of stories that come around to, we've got plenty of pages left to explore this, but that's my vibe. Because it's always the case with these like really historical things. No one really knows, but it's probably a mix. Spoiler alert. I mean, I might be wrong, so it's not really a spoiler, I'm just guessing. Robert Hodd from York. A good candidate. Appears in legal records in Yorkshire between 1225 and 1226 in the shape of one Robert Hodd fugitive. He was a tenant of the Archbishop of York and owed money to the church, so his assets were 32 shillings and 6 pence. I have no idea how much that is. Although, like, shillings were around, I think. Not when I was young, but I think when my parents were young, and definitely my grandparents, they used like pounds, shillings, and pence, which was like a non-decimal system for money, which must have been an absolute nightmare. He also shows up in records a few times in later years, this time under the nickname Hobhood. But other than that, we don't know much about him. Some writers, like Dr. David Crook, believe Robert Hodd could be the outlaw known as Robert of Wetherby. We don't know much about Wetherby either, so this doesn't really help us very much. According to what little records remain, Wetherby was considered an outlaw and evildoer of the land, and a total of 70 shillings was spent to catch and kill him. How much was that other guy worth? 32 shillings. Holy shit. It's 2 times some dude's net worth. Although that other dude didn't really have net worth because he was in debt, so it's just his assets. Let's say he had a house. Couple of houses? Pretty good reward right there.
I'm about to finish this place out.
It also appears that I know I'm thinking like I'd love a transfer to modern money, but it's basically impossible when you go back this far because the things were just costing different amounts of money. Like, you can adjust for inflation only so far. It also appears that Wetherby finally met his maker at the hands of the sheriff. Eustace of Loudon was the sheriff and later deputy sheriff of Yorkshire he got demoted in 2025 and 2026 and would have had the pleasure of collecting Hobblehood's assets for the church as well as hunting down Robert of Wetherby. However, before holding this position, he was the deputy sheriff of Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire for several years and might have been known as the Sheriff of Nottingham in the Barnsdale area, which may have been one of Robin Hood's haunts. It's an interesting theory, but we have no proof that Robin Hood and Robert of Wetherby were the same person, or that either of them ever used the nickname Robin Hood. That is just such a massive stretch. It's just a ridiculous stretch trying to pop that together and be like, hey look, we found him! No, you didn't. Or maybe you did, but it's extraordinarily unlikely. Robert of Wakefield. In 1852, Joseph Hunter, a clergyman and assistant keeper of records, published a book presenting one possible source of the Robin legend, if not Robin Hood himself, based on Little Jest of Robin Hood. In his story, a comely king named Edward is traveling around the country when he runs into everybody's favorite outlaw. He pardons Robin of his crimes and offers him a position at court. However, 15 months later, Robin had grown bored with life at court and had gone a little broke, so he returns to the life of an outlaw. Edward II was considered a fairly handsome man who travelled extensively, and some details of the king's journey in the Robin Hood story match the movements of Edward I between April and November 1323. Around the same time, there was a porter, Robin Hood, who worked at court. In the last court entry mentioning Robin, he was paid off because he can no longer work. Unfortunately, why he can no longer work is a mystery. Oh no, that's going to haunt me. What a mystery. Oh my god, I do find this interesting. It's just like, I find it hard to care about all these like little historical loose ends that haven't been tied off, because it's just like, oh my god, who cares? It's just some person who we'll forget about and never care about again. It's quite nihilistic or whatever, isn't it? Regardless, he was at the right place at the right time, performing the sort of job that would match with the yeoman described in the ballad. Personally, I think this is pretty solid, but Hunter wasn't satisfied, going on to claim that Robin Hood was, in fact, Robert Hood, a tenant who lived in Wakefield, Yorkshire, who shows up in records for the first time around 1316 to 1317. Wakefield is close to Barnsdale, only 10 miles away, and Robert Wakefield was married to one Matilda, a name used to Maid Marian in two Elizabethan plays. Alright, yeah, but that's the Elizabethan period's a lot later. It's a fascinating case of coincidence. A later writer learned that Robert was the son of a forester named Adam, a detail also showing up in some of the earlier Robin Hood ballads. I mean, of course there's going to be simple coincidences like this because these stories have been told for a really long time. So there's been lots of opportunity for coincidences. It's not even that crazy of a coincidence. In 1321 to 1322, the barons of England rebelled against Edward II and Robin Hood. A yeoman and proficient archer, like Robin himself, had been a supporter of the Earl of Lancaster. However, the Earl was betrayed by his trusted deputy.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have a temper, and I'm under anger management, but be happy that you're here right now.
Henry de Falkenberg, who revealed all of his plans to the king, leading to Lancaster's defeat in the Battle of Boroughbridge in Yorkshire on the 15th of March 1322. The treacherous Henry de Falkenberg was appointed Sheriff of Nottinghamshire and Yorkshire by the king and was charged with rounding up the remaining rebels that fled into Sherwood and Barnsdale Forest. So here we have a hated Sheriff of Nottingham. In 1322, after the rebellion, the Earl of Lancaster was executed, and those following him were also punished. According to the records, Robert may have lost his lands and possibly turned to a life of crime, becoming an outlaw, taking refuge in the nearby forest of Barnsdale. However, kings being fickle, the rebels and the outlaws were given amnesty in 1323, so perhaps Robert Hood was pardoned by King Edward II and even offered a job when the king visited the Barnsdale/Wakefield area in November 1323. Now, this is a fascinating theory, but there's no proof that Robert Hood and Robin, working as a porter at court, were in fact the same person, that either of them got invited to the Barons' Rebellion, or that either of them were declared outlaws at any point in time. Yeah, guys, the straws are being clutched at, my dudes. Later, a record also showed up indicating that Robin the Porter was already working at court before the king's visit to Nottingham, so it's doubtful that either of them was the real Robin Hood. John and Robert Davil. In the mid-13th century, a lot of turmoil was going on in England in the shape of the Second Barons' War that raged from 1264 to 1267. Oh my god, it's like there's a whole war. I've never even heard of the Second Barons' War. That is, just never even heard of it. And it was a war that lasted 3 years. I'm sure loads of people died. The barons were uneasy about the influence of Henry III's court favourites on the ruling of the country. And in 1258, Simon de Montfort, I've heard of him, 6th Earl of Leicester, called a parliament demanding that a council of 15 barons be appointed to oversee the governing of the country. That'd be a bit of a change, wouldn't it? Henry wasn't too impressed by this idea. No, he's the king. He's like the mouth of God or whatever. He's like basically infinite power. It's good to be king. And they're like, yo, king, how about we have 15 barons doing your job? King be like, no. And who were the barons you were going to suggest, by the way? I'm just interested. Yeah, just write me down that list. All right, I'm just going to pass that off to the executioner. because they're all going to be executed. And so are you. Get the fuck out. And after a few years, a civil war erupted in 1264, led by de Montfort himself. Initially, things went well for the rebels. After de Montfort won the Battle of Lewes in 1264, and for a while, Henry became a little more than a puppet king with the real power in the hands of de Montfort and his supporters. Tell you what, I know it's going to go the other way, because you know what England's not ruled by? A council of barons. It's ruled by a king. Sort of. Figurehead king. But it's not ruled by figurehead barons. However, in 1265, Henry's son Edward escaped captivity, raised an army of his own and challenged the barons. The whole thing came to a head during the Battle of Evesham in 1265. Edward crushed the opposing army, killing de Montfort. However, the fighting wasn't done. In the following years, de Montfort's supporters continued a hit-and-run campaign, raiding and plundering, leading to chaos and lawlessness in England. One of the key instigators was the Earl of Derby, Robert Ferrers, though he was more interested in improving his own position than any real political change. He raised another army against the king, was finally defeated at the Battle of Chesterfield in 1266. After the rout, many of the Ferrers soldiers fled to Sherwood Forest, only 20 miles from the battlegrounds, and began their lives as outlaws. Like back in the day, it's like, England's so small, you're just going to run away to the forest. No one's going to catch you. I feel like today if you run away to the forest, they'll be like, yeah, I mean, you've got a helicopter, it's going to sweep the air in like 5 minutes. Former soldiers and dispossessed rebels became a real problem in England, forming bands of brigands and robbers. In short, it was chaos. Among the rebels turned bandits were Sir John Dayville and his brother, Robert. For a while, they continued the hit-and-run style resistance, taking advantage of the chaos to pillage and plunder. But the Robin of legend, they were not. During a raid on Lincoln, they targeted the Jewish quarter, murdering Jews and destroying records of debts owed to Jewish moneylenders by Christians, among them John himself. Eventually, they holed up at the castle at Ely in Cambridgeshire, forcing the locals to pay protection money, with which John recruited more men to his cause. Whatever that was by this point. It's like, yeah, for the cause. It's like, we don't have a cause, but come on, get charged up. Among these recruits were two men called Robert Hood and Jean de Petit. Little John. Oh, yeah, he's Jean de Petit. John the Small.
Okay, guys, I have to go help bring in the groceries from the car. I won't be gone very long, like 5 or 10 minutes, and but I do have to take a small break here.
Little John. Sir John Davis.
Just to support my family, so I'm going to pause the video of my, oh no, what happened there? You put on something there. I'll leave you with a cinematic view of this game. Yep, I'll leave you with a cinematic view of this game, and I'll be right back.
Request accepted.
Okay, I'm gonna need my phone. This was a jacket, yeah. Oh, my headphones. Ah, much better. Now, what did I do with my pen? That's no good. I made a frozen fruit and protein drink smoothie. Purple because blackberries and strawberries and blueberries. It's so good. It's like I'm living in a Jamba Juice. So good. All it takes is an ice cube tray. Go back on Nightingale now.
Bill eventually led his band of raiders to London, where they managed to set up camp in Southwark and caused general chaos, but soon things fell apart. There was no real plan, and one of John's allies struck a deal with the king in exchange for a pardon, eventually leading to John's surrender. As a reward for surrendering, Edward I pardoned John. I guess it was good to be Sir back then. There was a few connections between the brothers and Robin Hood, including property in Barnesdale, and they were on good terms with Sir Richard Folio, who some theorised could have been the inspiration for the poor knight Sir Richard Lee, who Robin loans money to in Little Jest of Robin Hood. John settled Folio's mortgage, a sum of £400. Oh my lord. The guy before, a shilling is less than a pound. That dude who was worth like his entire assets was like worth 30 shillings. And then there was the dude who was like 70 shillings to hunt him down, to hunt whoever the bad guy we were talking about, who might have been Robin Hood but wasn't, down. £400 is insane. The same sum loaned to Sir Richard Lee. John also held the manor at Edmonton inside Sherwood Forest, so he would have been familiar with the forest and the highway. What exactly happened to Robert Devil is unclear, but there's little historic record of him. Some theorized that he remained a rebel, living under the name Robin Hood, but there's no evidence that he ever used this name. A more likely scenario is the activities of the Devils and their lawless band inspired stories of Robin Hood, or perhaps Robin Hood and Jean de Petit slipped away in the chaos of surrender and carved out a career as outlaws. You see what's happening? You see what's happening? Inspired stories of. Because all of these things just come together to make the fictional Robin Hood. It's not one singular person, it's like a collection. Roger Godbird. While the name is not quite the same, Robin Hood, Roger Godbird, no, it's not the same at all, was a real outlaw active around the 1260s. His earliest transgression came in 1264, when he was caught poaching deer in Sherwood Forest like a very naughty boy. He was initially a friend of the Sheriff of Nottingham, Reginald de Grey, but on one fine day the two found themselves on opposing sides. Due to politics, Godbird was a supporter of Simon de Montfort's rebellion, but after the rebellion failed and de Montfort was killed, Godbird was outlawed for fighting against his king, so he fled to the forest where he became a bandit, robbing and terrorizing the wealthy, along with his band of outlaws. It seems that Godbird was pardoned in 1366, but he likes the life of an outlaw, so he continued in his dastardly ways. Oh no, it's like if you get a pardon, don't go back to doing crimes. Who is it that got pardoned and then continued doing crimes? There was a story about this recently. Like he got off basically scot-free and then just couldn't help himself from doing more crimes. It's like, dude, you got literally the get out of jail free card that exists, and he's like, nah, I like jail. I like crime. Gives me a kick. They're not gonna pardon you twice, dude. Godbird was captured after committing a robbery at Stanley Abbey in Wiltshire in 1270 and was imprisoned in Nottingham Castle the following year, 1271. However, in true Robin Hood fashion, Godbird managed to escape from Nottingham Castle. After his daring escape, Godbird took refuge at the castle of Sir Richard Folio, a local knight who held lands in Yorkshire and was apparently a friend of every rebel that came his way, so the Sheriff of York was ordered to siege Folio's lands in Yorkshire and take his castle at Fenwick. Folio was eventually pardoned for helping the outlaws, but once again, we're reminded of Little Jest of Robin Hood when Robin Hood seeks refuge with Sir Richard of Lee and the Sheriff besieges Sir Richard's castle in a desperate attempt to get his hands on Robin Hood. I mean, yeah, but it's not exactly some sort of super complex specific plot, is it? However, Roger Godbird was a busy little bandit, and in 1275, Godbird went on trial for burglaries, homicides, arson, and robberies. In his defense, Godbird claimed that he was innocent and had committed no crimes. What's your defense? Didn't do it. The Shaggy defense. It wasn't me. Which is a legal term. The Shaggy defense is just where your literal defense strategy is, wasn't me. Prove it was. Wasn't me. Wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Oh my god, that's the only line I know from that song. This was enough for the judge and jury, and he was pardoned and returned to his farm where he became a landowner and spent the rest of his days, so I guess all's well that ends well. Dude, Shaggy defense works. If you got nothing better, just go for the Shaggy defense. Just like Robin Hood, Godbird's two most notable offences are against the church, and he seemed to have a natural knack for evading the law. Godbird was never known by the name of Robin Hood, but perhaps he inspired the story. Yes, definitely. A little bit of inspiration there. Like every story, it's all based, it's all a remix. It's there's always something, iterating on something else. Earl of Huntingdon. As we've seen, Robin Hood was quite the social climber, and by 1598, in a play written by Anthony Munday, our outlaw had become the Earl of Huntingdon. Where exactly Munday got this from, or why he decided Robin was this particular Earl, is anybody's guess. However, there was an Earl of Huntingdon alive and well during the reign of King Richard I and later King John. In some of the tales, Robin's home is in Barnesdale, which everyone assumes is in Yorkshire. However, there was another Barnesdale in Rutland during the reign of King Richard. This Barnesdale was controlled by the Earl of Huntingdon, though at the time it was called Bernardshill, which kind of sinks the whole theory right there. But let's soldier on. The Earl of Huntingdon wasn't called Robert, his name was David, and he was the brother to William, King of Scotland, and for 30 years he was next in line for the Scottish throne. He held many lands and played an important role in Anglo-Saxon diplomacy. Unlike many other Robin Hood candidates, we know a lot about Earl David of Huntingdon. In 1174, the Earl supported the rebellion of King Henry II's eldest son against his father. Oh no, some succession. The rebellion failed, and Earl David lost his earldom, becoming just David. It's kind of good your dad didn't chop your head off, though, isn't it, old Earl? I mean, not Earl anymore, just Dave. For 10 years until he made up with the king, got his lands and titles back, and became Earl Dave again. In 1190, he got married to Maud, also called Matilda, which in Munday's play was the real name for Maid Marian. Maud was of the nobility herself, being granddaughter of Ranulph, Earl of Chester, and sister to another Ranulph, Earl of Chester, because things aren't confusing enough already. You sure it's not the same person? Shortly after getting married to Maud, Earl Dave disappears from the records for around 3.5 years, possibly because he went on a crusade with Richard. But there's no evidence to support that. Some also claim that Huntingdon had a son named Robert who died in infancy, but if he had a son named Robert, there's no record of him. When Earl David finally shows up in the records again, presumably after returning from the Crusades, he does something very Robin Hood-like. In support of the still absent King Richard, Earl David, along with Earl of Chester, marched on Nottingham against usurper John. However, after King Richard passed on to the afterlife, when he popped his clogs, Earl David, to no one's surprise, lost much of his position in the English court. In some tales, Robin Hood becomes an outlaw due to debt, and Earl David had his share of financial difficulties, being fined quite heavily for mainly Forest Act offences. He even had to sell some of his land to pay these debts. In 1212, Earl David was accused of being part of a plot to assassinate King John, but his role, if there was any, was never proven. However, by 1215, he was siding against King John in a conflict between John and his barons, so perhaps there was something to the accusations after all. Clearly, Earl David was no fan of King John. A lot of the details in the story of the Earl of Huntingdon are similar to the story we know today, which actually makes me think that the Earl wasn't the real Robin Hood, but he obviously influenced Munday's play and Scott's Ivanhoe, so perhaps some elements of this story influenced the original Robin Hood as well. I told you, that's exactly what's happening. All of these little things add up to like the big version of Robin Hood. They're all like little elements that come together. Robin of Locksley. In 1746, after studying some family records and adding a few creative interpretations, Dr. William Stuckeley produced a false... Why do I know that name? Stuckeley. I feel like I know that name. A false family tree indicating that one Robert Fitzooth, commonly called Robin Hood, was the pretended Earl of Huntingdon. He also claimed that Robert was the Lord of Clyne. Supposedly, with a well-established pedigree, but the family of Fitzooth had never been traced, so it seems unlikely. Yet he just made it up. He just a false family tree, we just said. In 1795, Joseph Ritson further perpetrated this myth, claiming that Robin Hood was born at Locksley in the county of Nottingham during the reign of Henry II, around 1160. However, it seems that Robert Fitzooth was about as fictional as Robin himself. Robert Fitzooth may be fictional, but there was a Robert Fitzodo, a knight who was, in fact, the Lord of Locksley Manor from the reign of Henry II to around 1196, and in 1864, J.R. Planche claimed that Stukeley had confused the name Fitzooth with Fitzodo, the word Fitz indicating illegitimate son. However, apparently it wasn't necessarily bad to be a bastard. Many nobles kept the affix to show their descent from some famous or landed person, proof of noble blood. However, some families dropped the Fitz to avoid drawing attention to their illegitimate status when the time came to inherit titles and estates. So Robert Fitzodo might have just been known as Robert Odo or Robert Ode, living... Robin Hood? Oh my god, is it a stretch? Living in Locksley, according to the Register of Arms of 1196, Robert Fitzodo was no longer a knight, which could simply mean he died, but Planche found evidence that a Robert Fitzodo was still alive and well in 1203. If this is the same person, it seems that Robert was stripped of his knighthood and possibly disinherited in 1196. Stripping people of their knighthood is still something that they do today. It's really rare, but it means you've been a very naughty boy.
Now you listen here. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
Robert's son-in-law, Peter de Mora, inherited his estate. However, there's no proof that Robert Fitzodo was ever an outlaw or associated with Robin Hood. There's a gravestone in the Locksley churchyard, much older than the rest of the gravestones, bearing an unusual style of cross, very similar to a drawing made of Robin Hood's supposed grave by Nathaniel Johnson, and fitting the relative dimensions of the slab in Johnston's drawing. Coincidence? Probably. Yeah, it's all coincidence, all just building up a legend. This is how a legend is born. William of Kensham. Another possible inspiration for tales of Robin Hood is William of Kensham, a little-known hero who stepped up in the 13th century when Prince Louis of France tried to invade England and take the crown from King John. Be having none of that, Frenchie. French armies laid waste to the countryside of southern England. No, not southern England. That's where I'm from. Levelling villages and buildings, burning crops, and just generally pillaging, raping, and killing their way through England. However, one man, William of Cassingham, later known as Wilkin of the Weald, is that the Weald of Kent? That's literally where I'm from. Yes. Wasn't going to stand for this kind of behaviour. The woodlands of Kent, yes, that's where I'm from. Densely forested and sparsely populated became William's battlefield, with a small force of skilled local huntsmen, armed with their trusty longbows, extensive knowledge of the terrain and hit-and-run tactics. William and his men had a great advantage over the heavily armoured French knights. Who exactly William was in this is a little unclear. He might have been a young loyalist with some military skills, possibly learned while fighting in France, but like Robin Hood, he had the support of local villagers who provided supplies and information, probably because he returned the possessions looted by the French army to their rightful owners. The French considered him an outlaw, and William cultivated a well-earned reputation for taking no prisoners, killing around 1,000 French soldiers. God damn, my dude. That's a number, isn't it? If that was real, that's got to be like a wreck. That's got to be up there with the most effective soldiers. Because aren't there's like snipers who've killed like 300 people or whatever, and that's like some of the highest kill counts? 1,000? In hand-to-hand combat, basically, with like swords? Jesus. By 1217, Louis admitted defeat and withdrew his army back to France, where he belongs. William was rewarded for his service to the crown with titles and land in Essex and Kent, and became a widely celebrated hero for both his success and his gallantry, which does sound a bit like Robin Hood. Yeah, it does sound a bit like Robin Hood, doesn't it? It's almost like his, people who wrote the Robin Hood stories or came up with them could have heard of this tale and almost like used it a little bit. Kind of sounds like that, doesn't it? Inspirational outlaws. Before the story of Robin Hood, there are a few other notable outlaws who got their own ballads and who might have inspired the tales of Robin Hood. The first would be Hereward the Wake, a real outlaw who became the main character in the ballad Jester Harawadi, composed in the mid-12th century, 300 years before Robin Hood shows up. The hero, Hereward, is banished and outlawed at the age of 18 by King William I, also known as William the Conqueror. After having some adventures in Cornwall, Ireland, and Flanders, Hereward returns to England to avenge the murder of his brother and father and to reclaim his ancestral lands. Like Robin, he lives in the forest, using the woodlands and forests against the Normans. He forms a band of fiercely loyal followers, is a skilled archer, and quite deadly with a bow. He often uses tricks and disguises, especially those of a potter, fisherman, and monk, to defeat his foes. I understand, like, fisherman. What's a potter's outfit? He's just got really clay hands, and he's wearing an apron. When he's finally captured and imprisoned, his faithful companions come to his rescue. Hereward was defeated by the Normans, but shows up in records as a landowner in 1086, so apparently William didn't hold a grudge, which was rather unlike William. He could hold a grudge with the best of them. The harrying of the North comes to mind, doesn't it just? Another outlaw who got his own tale was Eustace the Monk, 1170 to 1217. Eustace was a French nobleman, unjustly outlawed and dispossessed of his lands by the Count of Boulogne. When his father is killed by a rival, Eustace leaves his religious order to seek justice from Count Reynold of de Martin. However, when his champion uses the judicial trial by combat, which used to be a thing, it's like, no, they're gonna have a trial by combat, and then you can choose like an alt. Like, you can choose someone to go and be the person who fights for you, which I would definitely do. I'd be like, I'm not gonna risk my life. I'll just pay someone whose life is worth less than mine. That's how nobility works, bitches! Eustace's inheritance is seized by the Count, forcing Eustace to flee into the forest and become an outlaw. Like Robin Hood, Eustace uses disguises to rob the Count and his men of money or horses wherever he can. He captures and then releases the Count of Boulogne in much the same way as Robin captures the Sheriff of Nottingham in A Little Guest of Robin Hood. Like Robin, he would ask those he robbed how much money they had. If they told the truth, they got to keep their money, while those who lied got robbed. Eventually, he turned pirate, becoming the scourge of the English Channel, and was finally beheaded in 1217. It wouldn't work very well today, would it? You're like, how much money you got on you? I got no money on me. It's the 21st century. It's 2024. Or probably 2025 by the time you finally hear this episode. It's 2024. Like, I got Apple Pay. I don't even have a credit card on me anymore. Like, what do you want? Cash, please. Maybe I have like 40p in my back pocket. Lastly, we have Fulk Fitzwarren, the grandson of Warren de Metz, who settled on the Welsh borders after the Norman conquest, eventually becoming the Lords of Whittington and Ludlow. Apparently, Fulk was also a childhood friend of King John's. According to one story, one day, while playing chess, John broke the chessboard over Fulk's head, after which Fulk kicked John in the stomach. They're like children. Oh, when John went crying to his father. Oh, wait, are they children? Yeah, it was childish. Like, that sounds like a childish thing to do. And they're like, oh, this is happening in their childhood. Pay attention, Simon! When John went crying to his father, he got beaten for complaining. Yeah, that's some good parenting right there. It's like, stop crying and complaining. Don't make me beat you again, boy. Fulk inherited his father's holdings at Whittington in 1197 when he died, but when John came to power, he gave the holdings to Fulk's enemy, Maurice Fitzroger. Fulk's reaction was to murder Maurice and become an outlaw, and if the tales are to be believed, he was the violent kind. In one instance, King John sends 15 knights after him. However, Fulk kills 14 of the knights, leaving one alive to report the incident to King John. That's like, that feels like what those cartels would do. Like, in psycho shit. And then like break his legs and torture the 14 others and be like, the reason we're leaving alive is so there's a record.
I'm full! Son of a bitch!
Psycho, dude. Clearly, our man was trying to make a bit of a point here. This is similar to a quick-tempered Robin killing 15 foresters after they refused to pay him for winning a wager. After waging a minor war against John and his agents for 3 years, Fulk was pardoned in 1203, recovered Whittington, and remained at peace with the king until he joined the baronial rebellion in support of the Magna Carta in 1215. He once again reconciled with the king in 1217, and finally died around 1256. Had a bit of a fractious relationship with the old king, didn't he? Like Robin Hood, Fulk is outlawed and hides in forests, assembling a group of loyal knights to play a game of hide-and-seek with the king's agents. He also... he literally killed 14 out of 15 just to leave one to go to the king's like, yeah, you know, all's forgiven. It's they were just a piece of shit knights. They're not important to me. They're not the queen. They're not the bishops. They're just useless knights. He also has a close second-in-command, John de Rampagne. In one scene, Fook's John waylays a caravan of merchants, delivering them to Fook, who tests their honesty in the same way Robin Hood tested the honesty of his victims. In another scene, King John, like the sheriff in Little Jest of Robin Hood, is tricked into the forest where he is captured and released after swearing an oath. Of course, there are a whole lot of differences, but it certainly seems that some of the core elements are quite similar, so Fook's story might add some spice to the tales of Robin Hood. Robin Hood the Fairy. Well, he did wear tights. Oh, cringe joke, Whistle Boy. Finally, we have, in my humble opinion, the most unlikely of theories. The idea that Robin Hood wasn't a person at all, but a figure from mythology. A spirit of the forest. Oh, come on. It's all fiction, so it doesn't really matter. It's like, he's clearly just an amalgamation of all these different stories. He's been associated with all manner of mythological creatures, including Hodgkin, a household spirit from German folklore, mostly considered to be a good spirit. Woden, the Germanic version of Odin, or Robin Goodfellow, though most of us just know him as Puck. Robin Goodfellow, or Puck, may have been popularized by Shakespeare. Yeah, all I know is Midsummer Night's Dream. That's the only thing I know Puck from. He was around long before Shakespeare made him a star. He's kind of a household fairy associated with the home, but like Robin Hood, he's a trickster who enjoys a good joke. He's a shapeshifter, taking the form of various woodland animals, whereas Robin Hood is a master of disguise. There are some similarities in how they dress. Both wear a hood, and Robin Hood prefers wearing green, a colour often associated with fairies. Times change. My daughter loves fairies. They're all pink. Of course, Robin Hood lives and hides in a forest, so it's not like he can get away with bright orange. Honestly, the idea that Robin Hood is a fairy is very odd, since none of the early ballads contain any magical or mythological elements. Robin Hood only entered the realm of mythology when the character became an important figure in yearly May Day celebrations, a festival held to welcome the new season. It's still a holiday, May Day. The 1st of May, right? Is like a national holiday, a public holiday in the UK, if I remember correctly. I'm not very good at holidays because the school I went to, we didn't get public holidays off. Like bank holidays, we had to go to school. And I always remember my parents like, no work today. I'd be like, I go to school, bye. Lame. A festival held to welcome in the new season, Robin became a sort of summer king, leading the festivities. The celebrations included athletic contests, with archery being a particular favourite, and participants would dress up as Robin Hood and his merry men. Folklorist Margaret Murray also suggested that Robin Hood was the leader of a coven of witches, with Robin and his 12 companions suggestive of a Grand Master and his coven. Alright, steady on, Margaret. According to Murray, paganism didn't die out completely when Europe became Christianized. The old religions simply went underground, practicing their rituals in secret and secluded areas like forests. She claimed that Robin Hood targeted clergy in the church, suggesting animosity toward the church. However, in early ballads, Robin Hood is a devout Catholic. Yeah, we talked about that for a long time, how he was like not going to the pub and just having a good pray. While Murray's work has mostly been discredited, I think it's possible that these mythological stories may have influenced the tales of Robin Hood, but if Robin Hood is based on a real figure, I find a real outlaw far more likely than a fairy. I don't think he's based on a particular outlaw though. I think he's based on all of these outlaws, or like most of them somehow. Robin Hood's grave. While I'm not 100% convinced that any of these candidates were, in fact, the real Robin Hood, me neither, Ilsa, our outlaw actually has a grave. Well, he has a few graves, but it seems that the most likely grave, according to the ballads, lies in Yorkshire, near what used to be the Priory of Kirklees. Some of the details about how exactly Robin Hood dies differ from story to story, but the story basically goes like this. In his later years, Robin Hood falls ill and decides to go to the Prioress of Kirklees in Yorkshire to help. The Priories may have been related to Robin. She's sometimes referred to as his cousin or aunt, but we're never given a name. Standard treatment at the time for pretty much anything was bleeding, which isn't the most effective treatment. No, I think they do bleed people, but it's like for some like super specific condition or something. In most tales, he's advised by his merry men either to not go or at the very least take some protection, and it's usually Little John who ends up accompanying Robin to the Priory. On their arrival, Little John is ordered to wait outside while Robin is taken to the gatehouse, where the bleeding commences. However, the Prioress has no intention of helping Robin. Instead, she leaves him bleeding, intending for him to bleed out and die. Oh, no, but I mean, isn't it just going to make him extra better? When Robin realizes what's happening, he blows his hunting horn, summoning Little John, who finds Robin severely weakened and past saving. Furious at the betrayal, Little John threatens to take revenge by burning down the priory and killing everyone inside. But Robin forbids him from doing that, reminding Little John that he's never hurt a woman and he's not about to start now. I'm not saying don't hurt the people in the priory, but the woman just murdered your friends. Instead, Little John helps Robin to the window, where Robin looses an arrow, asking to be buried where the arrow falls.
There it is.
Sounds like a bit of a waste of time.
Didn't I say it? I was like, I read all of the Robin Hood legend and folklore and stuff, and I remember the particular story that stuck with me that I thought was the best one that seemed the most close to the truth is the one about him firing the bow and the arrow and then dying wherever it lands.
Robin, you could have used that arrow to kill the person who murdered you, Robin. There's some variety in the tales. Sometimes the prioress is acting alone, while other times she's assisted by her secret lover, Roger, or Red Roger, of Doncaster, who
oh no, what the
Robin
fuck is that?
fights and manages to defeat despite his severe blood loss before dying himself. We're also never really told why she kills Robin. According to some stories, she's jealous of Robin, while others claim she was under the influence of her lover, Roger. However, at the end of the day, I suppose her motives don't really matter. Robin Hood was dead. I mean, maybe. Robin Hood's a real person. Like Little John honoured his friend's request, and today Robin's grave can be found in Kirklees Park, part of the estate of Kirklees Hall. The grave was first described by John Leland, antiquary to Henry VIII, when he visited Kirklees in 1534. But I
can't stand Eve Online's fucking inventory system. It's so fucking bad.
The only illustration of the slab was drawn in 1665.
Looting is really bad in Eve. It's like the worst looting I've ever dealt with.
Is not the same as the one found there today. The slab described by both Crafton and Johnson mentioned a William of Goldsborough, but we have no idea who that was. Some have theorized there is actually Will Scarlet's real name, suggesting that Robin Hood's grave is actually Will Scarlet's grave.
I protest. I am not a merry man.
On the contrary, Lieutenant Worf, your clothing identifies you with the character of Will Scarlet.
Sometime in the 18th century, an iron frame wall was built around the grave to protect it from souvenir hunters. Labourers working on Yorkshire and Lancaster and Lancashire Railway chipped off fragments to use as a cure for toothache. Oh, yeah. Grind up those rhino horns, boys. Unfortunately, the whereabouts of the original grave slab is unknown, and the stone marking the grave today contains an inscription that tries very hard to be archaic English but fails miserably. This form of stylized pseudo-archaic English was very popular in the Victorian era, though. The current inscription possibly comes from a 1630 ballad and basically says the following. Here, underneath this stone, lies Robert, Earl of Huntingdon. Never was there an archer so good, and people called him Robin Hood. Such outlaws as he and his men will England never see again. It's pretty cringy poetry, isn't it? According to the tombstone, Robin Hood, although I do not understand poetry, so maybe that's like some beautiful art, but like, anyone else seen that movie Patterson about the guy who's supposed to be good at poetry? And I'm like, watching that movie and I'm like, yeah, but his poetry sucks, dude. Is that like part of the joke of this movie? And then it turns out that the poetry is written by some super famous poet, and I'm like, I don't understand poetry, because it just seemed to me to just be nonsense. Maybe I'm just not smart enough. I'm definitely not cultured enough. My parents saw it. And they're like, they're not culture snobs, but they're like, you know, they love going to art galleries and shit like that. And they were like, oh, it was genius. And I'm like, oh, wasn't it just? Wasn't it just, Dad? Wasn't it just? According to the tombstone, Robin Hood was the Earl of Huntingdon and he died in 1247. However, some believe that our engraver made a mistake and Robin Hood only died in 1347. Skeptics argue that the grave is too far. It's around 650 meters away, uphill from the Priory Gatehouse. And most expert archers agree that an arrow shot from a longbow couldn't have travelled that far, especially if the person shooting it was severely weakened by blood loss. Sir Samuel Armitage, one of the previous owners of Kirklees Hall and the attached Kirklees Park, also apparently excavated the grave to a depth of about 3 feet in the 18th century. Wait, you just went down 3 feet and then gave up. 3 feet's not very deep, my dude. That's like a meter. Why didn't you go down further? People aren't buried just a meter down. It's like in a shallow grave.
But then when it comes time
for the grave, they get a little hasty, you know?
Or any indication there had previously been a disturbance or a grave of any kind. Some claim that Robin was initially buried in Kirklees Park and the body was later moved to an unmarked grave, though why anyone would have done this isn't really explained. The Kirklees Priory really did exist, and the White Ladies at Kirklees, as they were known, weren't the best of nuns. Many of them were unwanted daughters who didn't have any real desire to be nuns, and by 1315 there were some scandalous rumours doing the rounds, including the nuns keeping dogs, going out dancing and inviting men into the priory. The naughty nuns! Medieval abbeys also had a bit of a tradition of tourism, displaying relics of saints to draw visitors, as visitors translated into donations, so it's possible that the grave was used by the abbey as a means of income in the 1400s and very early 1500s. In 1539, the priory, like most monasteries in Yorkshire, was dissolved by Henry VIII, and Kirklees Hall was built on the nearby hillside using stones from the fallen priory. Only the priory's gatehouse, where Robin Hood supposedly died, remained standing. In little jest of Robin Hood, after killing Robin, the prioress took her own life, and one abbess, Elizabeth de Stainton, did in fact die at Kirklees Priory in 1347. According to some excitable Robin Hood historians, Elizabeth and her sister Alice were placed under the care of the nuns at Kirklees when their mother married Hugh de Tuttle in 1344. Apparently Hugh de Tuttle already had a daughter of his own called Matilda, who lived at Wakefield, and according to the Wakefield court rolls, was the wife of Robert Hood of Wakefield, which would make Elizabeth Robin Hood's sister-in-law. However, we don't know this Matilda maiden's name or whether her husband was that Robert Hood. The dates for the story also don't really make sense. If Elizabeth was 12 and an orphan in 1344, it's unlikely that she was a prioress by 1347. That's like 3 years later, when Robert Hood of Wakefield, who some believe was Robin Hood himself, met his maker. So the orphan Elizabeth and the abbess Elizabeth, probably not the same person. It seems extremely unlikely. Of course, there have been some tales of paranormal activity surrounding Robin Hood's grave in 1920. Oh, it wouldn't be an episode of Decoding the Unknown if we didn't mention ghosts, would it now? We got fairies in there. The only thing we're missing today is aliens. In 1923, John Hill, a tenant farmer living in the gatehouse where Robin died, came home from the pub to see a shadowy figure. You've had too much to drink, mate. Wielding a bow in the upstairs window. Musician Roger Williamson claimed to have come across the apparition of a woman with mad, staring eyes while walking through the woods near the grave in 1963 and 1972. And in 1990, Barbara Green, founder of the Yorkshire Robin Hood Society, so not a biased source at all right there, claims that while holding a vigil at the grave, she was overcome with a profound sense of dread and saw a red-headed man accompanied by a black shape amongst the trees, possibly the spirits of the prioress and her lover, Red Roger of Doncaster. According to Reverend Sean Manchester, an ordained priest, alleged descendant of Lord Byron and modern-day vampire hunter, oh my god, I would not like this guy. Was buried in unhallowed grounds while the prioress murdered her own blood, so both could be among the ranks of the undead. Right. When visiting the grave in April 1990, he claimed to have found signs of vampires, which included a cult symbol scrawled on the gatehouse and the mutilated carcass of a goat in the woods, apparently drained of blood and claw marks in the earth around the grave. Okay, he claimed this. Seems like something in the 1990s that'd be pretty easy to produce evidence of. I'm pretty sure we had cameras in 1990. However, an exorcism was performed on the grave in April 2005, so theoretically the undead should quiet down now. Yeah, because that's real. Exorcisms are real. Despite the popularity of Robin Hood, his supposed grave is overgrown and the railings and pillars have fallen down. No efforts being made to maintain the site or turn it into a tourist attraction, which is quite unfortunate. It's probably not Robin Hood's real grave, but it's an interesting part of the legend, and it's worth some conservation, in my humble opinion. Conclusion.
Warping to Stargate. Warp drive active.